Welcome to another deadline stream ahead of Game Week 8, and I've already made 2 free transfers, and I'm possibly going to take a -4 hit, but I'm not a big fan of most of the defenders in Game Week 8, to be fair, and those that I want to bring in for the long term, well, they're actually blanking this week, so it's a bit of a difficult predicament to be in, but I'm possibly looking to use the wildcard during the international break for Game Week 9, but as always, I'll go through all your questions, talk about my plans and what I'm thinking, and look, the possibility of a wildcard in Game Week 8 isn't too bad for me, but I think it's more applicable for some of you instead, and I think I'm just going to rather wait for Game Week 9 during the international break and also catch some price rises potentially. But welcome to everyone. It's good to see so many of you here in the chat already. So welcome to Computer. I know it's a play on words there. Welcome Raul. Welcome Alejandro. Good to see you. Welcome Yang. What do you recommend, wildcard or free hit? I'm not sure what your team is, but I think in most cases I'd say wildcard. I wouldn't want to use the free hit now. You'd rather use it around game weeks 29 to 34 as an example where there could be a lot of double game weeks and blanks. I don't think now is the time to free hit for most people. Welcome Sharia. Welcome to everyone tuning in. Hi Dylan, Pope, Cancelo, Trippier, Perisic, James, Nico Williams, Bowen, Saka, Andreas Martinelli, Sterling, Mitrovic, Haaland, Isak. Who should I change wildcard on and who captain? Honestly, it's a good wildcard team, and for the most part, it's what I've seen in most of these drafts, but instead you have Sterling instead of the usual Kevin De Bruyne, or maybe going for Harry Kane up front. I think that's completely fine. I would rather go for De Bruyne over Sterling, but that's completely, there's nothing wrong with what you've done. In terms of captain, I don't think, look, you've got Haaland, you've got Mitrovic, and you've also got potentially Isak as a potential nice captaincy option. I would go for Haaland personally, but it's completely up to you. Paqueta or Odegaard? I think with the fixtures in mind, Paqueta looks more enticing, so I would go for him, especially with the Game Week 12 blank in mind for Odegaard. Welcome, Harry. Dulan, that's a new name I've seen. Guys, is Perisic starting this week? We don't know for sure, but if there's ever a time he's going to start after playing in Europe, it should be Game Week 8 because there's an international break now, so it's a good time for him to start again. But Antonio Conte's comments have been a bit, kind of concerning because he was talking about Perisic also playing potentially on the right, but he also said that Sessegnon deserves to start and shouldn't be dropped. So is Perisic going to play on the right side? Who knows? I mean, Emerson probably deserves to be dropped after his performance against Sporting Lisbon, but that doesn't mean Perisic is going to start. There's also Jed Spence and Doherty who are fit and available for Spurs. So that will be interesting. I can't tell you that for sure. Let's see what Paul O'Keefe says around, I think, 5 to 6. He's going to give his predicted lineup, but that doesn't mean he's going to start for sure. My guess is that Perisic will start, but it's really tricky to guess that. KDB, Mitrovic and Trippier in, or should I wildcard? It's similar to what I've done, and honestly, I probably would just do the free transfers, but it depends on how many players you've got missing, to be honest. I think a wildcard's fine. I mean, the way that I'm looking at it is that Game Week 9 is a bit better because you've got the international break. There's going to be potentially some injuries and some other things to think about, so it's not an easy answer, but I do like KDB, Mitrovic and Trippier, and I don't think... for example, if you look at my team, it's not that different from what I would have on a wildcard for Game Week 8. So that's why if you can, afford to maybe save it for another week, I would maybe wait for Game Week 9 instead. Jeff puts his wildcard team, kind of the usual stuff as well. There's nothing really for me to say. I think it's completely fine. Yeah, I think in the long term, I would rather have Zaha over Bowen as an example, but I think that's completely fine. Which Arsenal player would you captain? If there was one, probably Saka or Jesus. But yeah, I don't think I'd captain an Arsenal player this week. Also, can you tell us who you're going to have in your team before the deadline so you can all say, you're a troll, aren't you? Mitrovic or Isak? Mitrovic for me all day long. Welcome, Nabil. Isak or Tony? I'd still go for Tony long term. For Game Week 8, I think Isak will probably do better, but in the long term, Tony's my preference. Welcome, Mitab. Who do you think is winning the F1 next year? I mean, it's hard to say. We don't even know what the cars are going to be like next year, but my initial guess would be Verstappen. Welcome, Khaledi. Good to see you. Very disappointed about Saint-Maximin yet. It doesn't look like he's going to be fit and available. That's the news that we got, I think, a few days ago, and it's pretty much confirmed in the press conferences. So, yeah, it is a shame, but either way, I'm not a huge fan of him. I know he's been doing well this season so far, but I don't like him too much as an FPL option. What 8.5 million midfielder or less would you buy for a 1 week punt? For a 1 week punt, I think Saka against Brentford would be one of my favourites. Maddison's facing Tottenham, so he's a no-go. Usually he's my favourite around that price. Zaha's obviously blanking, so I can't say him. And then you've also got Jared Bowen potentially against Everton, but I think that could be a low-scoring game. So really, when you kind of boil it down, for me it's between Saka and Kulusevski as a 1 week punt. Hayden, is it worth selling Walker, Salah, and Trossard to Cancelo, KDB, and Gordon? Differential for -4. Yes, it is worth a -4, but I'm not a big fan of Gordon, to be quite frank. Son or KDB? For me, it has to be KDB with the form he's in, but the fixture is tougher on paper. There's no doubt about it, but still KDB. I have 10 players playing. Should I wildcard and have one free transfer? I think 10 players is fine. It depends on the quality of players you have. You know, if you've got a lot of Pattersons, Nico Williams, and Andres Pereiras, then yeah, that would be concerning. But if you've got the kind of main players like Isak potentially or Tony, you've got Jesus, Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, then I think you're fine. You don't really need to do it. Mitrovic or Isak for 1 week. Still Mitrovic for me. I think he scored in this exact fixture last year, and it's his birthday, I believe, today. So, I mean, that doesn't really play a big part, but I just think Mitrovic anyway. I just have more confidence in him scoring goals than Isak. And pick up Dylan St. Aloysius Dons. Who's this talking? But it's good to see you, mate. St. Aloysius Dons, that's something I wouldn't have heard. I never would have expected to hear in this stream. 2 Newcastle defenders, please. Defenders specifically, then Trippier and Schär. No doubt about it. Sanchez to Pope -4. I think it's worth it this week, to be honest. And it's rare for me to say that about a goalkeeper transfer, but yeah. Best defender for 6.8 million. Is this for this week or long term? If it's long term, then I would probably point you towards the direction of Reece James, to be fair. Newcastle defender other than Trippier, Fabian Schär. Foden or Saka, 1 week punt. I prefer Saka. Thank you, Rock and Roll. It's good to see you. Good evening. Good evening to you as well, Heel. Is this your team for the week? Yes, but I could make a final transfer, a late transfer, maybe Perisic in for Trent or Reece James, but right now I'm just keeping things as they are. KDB Mitrovic or Kane Foden? KDB Mitrovic all day long. It has to be that. Son or Kane on a free hit? Harry Kane all day long. On a free hit, I definitely would go for Harry Kane. Ivan Toney and Eric Dyer or Isak and Emerson Royale? Probably... For this week, it would be Isak and Emerson Royale, but I'm not sure if Emerson starts, actually. Gordon over Bailey? I actually prefer Bailey this week. Like I said, the West Ham-Everton game, I just kind of see it as a low-scoring match. How long to the deadline? Quite a long way, actually. We've got until 6:30 UK time, so just under 2 hours and a half. Odegaard or Martinelli? Martinelli still for me. Welcome, Ian. Good to see you. I'm good. What about you? I only have 6 players starting. Do I take a -12? And I can afford to go about Haaland this week? Well, if you have a wildcard, FPL the Wyvern, hopefully that's how you say it, I would wildcard, definitely. I would try not to take a -12 hit this week because I don't think the ceiling is that high for it to warrant it. Why is Bailey a good option? I don't think he's necessarily a good option, but for this week, actually, I'll bring up the news that I saw earlier. It looks like he's going to be starting today, but in general, I think Bailey's just a budget option. He's decent for his price, and that's about it. I wouldn't want to start him most weeks. Thoughts about freemium? I think it's too imbalanced, really. Most freemium drafts I've seen, so I just rather have 2. And also with Haaland being such a good captaincy option, I don't think you need free premiums necessarily. I had to do a -12. That's fair enough, but I would try to avoid it if possible. That's just the way I see it. But you know, if you have a wild card, maybe consider using it and cancelling out those hits. Thank you, Woz, for the super chat. Good evening to you as well. Hopefully, you are enjoying yourself and taking care. Madison or Andreas this game week? For this game week, I'd actually probably say Andres Pereira, and it's one of the few times I'd say that. Schär over Trippier? I prefer Trippier. I think he's better for bonus points and also attacking threat, but Fabian Schär is a really good alternative. Gibbs White or Fornals? For this week, I think I'd be tempted to... You know what, I'd still say Fornals. Yeah, I just have more confidence in him getting returns than Gibbs White. Will Saint-Maximin start? Probably not. It looks like he's not available and he's been training individually, so I'd say no. Why hold on to James yet he's not been performing well this season? Well, I think James is a really good defender option in the long term. He's got great fixtures, and I actually expect him to do even better under Graham Potter than he was with Tuchel this season. But look, let's wait and see. There's a lot of things to consider. We've only seen one game really so far with Reece James under Graham Potter, but I think he's a good option still. What should I do with James? I mean, if you are down to 10, or let's say you don't have a full 11, then you could get rid of Reece James, at least for a week, and then you can always bring him back in the weeks to come. There are some rumours about postponements potentially in Game Week 9, especially with the London clubs. I'm not too sure about that, but it's something to be aware of. But with Reece James, I still would like to keep him if possible. That's just my opinion. I think he's a good offensive option. Saka or Maddison transfer? For this week, I'd rather go for Saka. Long-term, Maddison's definitely the better pick with better fixtures, no blanks, and Maddison's the clear winner in that regard. Ward out for a -4. Yeah, if it's for Pope, then go for it. But there's not many keepers I'd -4 to. Nick Pope is the only one, probably. Bailey or Almiron for this week only. I'd still probably go for Bailey, but I think Southampton could actually drop or cause Aston Villa to drop some points, to be fair. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul? Really good question. Breaking Bad for me, but I've only actually seen the first season of Better Call Saul. I saw it when it first came out. I'm now watching it again, so no spoilers, please. For me, Sopranos is the best that I've seen, but there's also The Wire and Breaking Bad. They're the only kind of 10 out of 10 shows, I'd say. Isak or Tony? For this week, Isak, no doubt about it, but long-term, Tony's always my preference, and I've said that. So if I had to pick one, it'd be Tony. Is this your wildcard team? No, this is not a wildcard team. I will show you actually some different stuff because we've been talking a lot for your questions already, and it's good to see so many of you here. If you haven't already, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. We're trying to get to 15,000, and I think we can make some big progress over the next few days, really, and maybe get to 15,000 sooner than expected. We've already made huge strides, and let's try to get the stream to over 200 likes. It'd be much appreciated. But let me show you a few things, actually, that I've seen today. So the first one is the big rumours that some of you are probably keen to discuss, and that's the possible postponements in the London games in Game Week 9. So Chelsea versus Palace and also Arsenal versus Spurs. That's another one if we bring this up here. And Football London's the one that reported this. But some of these strikes went on early in the season and the game still went ahead. So I would take this with a pinch of salt, basically. And as Matt Woosnam rightly says, it's not the be-all and end-all, and the games could still go ahead. So just wait and see, but it's worth noting that there is the possibility of postponements in Game Week 9 with the London fixtures. And this is also kind of like interesting news. Leon Bailey is set to start tonight, according to Sam Martin, who tends to get his news pretty spot on. He's, tends to get the Leicester news, but Leon Bailey there for Aston Villa, it looks like he will be starting today, and that's good for all of us. I've got him in my starting 11 right now. And a few other things I want to show you is a comparison between two premiums. And I think Harry Kane's actually better for this week, potentially, but I just have more confidence in Man City, and I really like De Bruyne, even more so than last season, because he's got Haaland now to really assist. And look, I don't think you can go wrong, but if you're asking me who would you prefer in the long term, De Bruyne or Harry Kane, it'd actually be De Bruyne, because I think Salah will pick up form, and there are a lot of premium options in the midfield that you can jump between. And you've already got Haaland up front, so I'd rather have one premium and one midfielder than going for two premium forwards, and that's it. So that's just the way I'm thinking about it. Let me know if you disagree. And like I said, for this week, I think Harry Kane could actually be the best captaincy option against Leicester. I think Leicester will concede probably at least 3 goals, and Harry Kane has an insane record against Leicester. I'm not sure what the exact record is, but something like 18 goals in 19 games, something ridiculous like that. And this is what I'd probably look to wildcard to next week, but things could change. I'm looking to make a best wildcard team video fairly soon, and I'll be talking about this. There could be a few changes by that time, but I'm looking to wildcard to something like this with Maddison, Zaha in the midfield instead of Jarrod Bowen, but of course I am open-minded. Kevin De Bruyne is still in there, but I could actually go to Mohamed Salah. I've actually got the funds. I've got 0.9 million in the bank with this draft, so I could go for Salah instead of De Bruyne and save that transfer, because obviously in Game Week 12, Man City do blank against Arsenal. But we'll talk more about the wildcard in future videos, because I'm probably not going to be wildcarding today. I think I'm just going to stick with the 2 free transfers. So let's go back to my team all the way here. And the 2 transfers I have made, for those of you that aren't aware, is Nick Pope in for Robert Sanchez and Kevin De Bruyne in for Salah. And I could take a -4 hit and get rid of either Trent or James for Perisic, but I'm not too keen right now because there are some doubts about Perisic and whether he's going to start. I think Sessegnon will start against Leicester. And then it's just a matter of, will Perisic play on the right, which could happen, but you've also got 2 right wing backs, above the likes of Emerson Royale, who could also start. So there's a lot to think about there. Bailey or Gordon? I prefer Bailey, to be honest. What midfielder should I bring in instead of Zaha? I was thinking Sinisterra. He's another decent one, actually, around his price and below, but I actually would rather go for someone like, for example, Maddison, but he is obviously having a difficult fixture this week, and Jarrod Bowen. Those are the main ones. If you want someone for this week only, I would go for Kulusevski or Saka. Long term, apart from Zaha, I'd be looking at Maddison, really. Who to buy? Almiron, Gordon, James Ward-Prowse. For a 1-week punt, I mean, it's interesting. I'd actually rather have Bailey than all of those, but you might have him already. It's difficult. I think from those 3 that you mentioned, I think Almiron would be my favourite, but I'm not a big fan of him. It's a shame that Saint-Maximin is injured, because otherwise he'd be one of my top picks for a free hit this week or a 1-week punt. 7.7 million midfielder and below. yeah, you're kind of limited, to be fair. I think Martinelli, Odegaard would be some of my favourites, and you've also got Saka, who I think is 7.8, so he's just a little bit above your threshold. Walker play, I don't think so. I think he's still a bit of a doubt, and there's no real need to rush him. Favourite movie? There's too many, really, for me to say, but Godfather, Goodfellas, The Matrix, Lord of the Rings trilogy, there's so many. Shawshank Redemption, I mean, I don't really have a specific favourite. Pulp Fiction, I'm just going to keep going. Start Nico Williams or Maddison? I think I'd start Maddison out of those two. Good players to transfer for Arnold. Trippier is the kind of key one. Fabian Schär, if you want to maybe double or triple up on Newcastle defence. And I think another one is Perisic, if you are willing to risk it. But yeah, other than that, I'm not a big fan of most of them. There's obviously Cancelo, maybe Ruben Diaz, if you want to double up on Manchester City defence. I like all of those, but I wouldn't recommend Luka Dean, for example. I just can't bring myself to do that. Is Saint-Maximin starting? Probably not, to be honest. It looks like he's injured and training individually, so probably he'll be back after the international break, but not yet. Best 8.6 million midfielder. Long term, I would probably say Maddison and Zaha. For this week, I would maybe go for someone like Saka Kulusevski. Thoughts on Gordon? He's been good this season, but I don't really see a high ceiling for him against West Ham. And I could be wrong, by the way, but I think that'll be a low-scoring game. A 1-1, maybe a 1-0 either way, a 0-0 even, which is, I think, my prediction right now. So I'm not too sure about it. Eric Dyer, I mean, he's kind of nailed on, but he's not someone you'd want to take a -4 hit for example, or as a one-week punt. But he's a decent long-term option, but I think Perisic would still be my go-to from the Spurs defence. Is free hit a good idea? I don't think so. I think I'd rather wildcard, if anything, or take hits. Is Target playing? Not too sure about that one, to be fair, but I wouldn't go for him. I'd rather go for Schär and Trippier. Diaz or Sterling, who to ship out? Who to ship out? I think I'd rather have Sterling in the long term, so I'd rather ship out Diaz right now. Will Arsenal versus Tottenham and Chelsea versus Crystal Palace be postponed? We covered this briefly earlier on. Take it with a pinch of salt. Just because there's the possibility of possible postponements, because there's no possible train services in those days, the games could still go ahead. So I wouldn't, just change everything just because of that news. It's just a possibility, and games have gone ahead even with kind of train strikes going about. So I wouldn't kind of knee-jerk too much just yet. Would you get Soufal or Botman? Probably Soufal and then cover Newcastle with Pope and Trippier, but they're both fine. Perisic on the wild card, I mean, I probably would consider it, considerably. I'm actually probably going to go without him in the Game Week 9 wild card, but there's still the possibility of him coming in. I think it's a good option, especially with all the blanks in Game Week 8 this week. Hi Dylan, why is Son not a good bet? I never said he's not a good bet. It's just he's off form. He's only got 1 assist all season, and I would rather go for De Bruyne because I think Man City are a machine, and despite Wolves being a good defensive side this season, I think City could still put 2 or 3 past them. I never said Son's a bad option. I just prefer Harry Kane, Haaland, and Kevin De Bruyne as premiums this week. Dean on a wildcard thoughts? No chance for me. I don't think that I can't really give you a kind of detailed explanation, really. I think you already know the reasons. Aston Villa are poor defensively. They're a poor team overall. Luka Dean is an FPL troll. And I don't see too many clean sheets, even with some good fixtures coming up. So, honestly, it's a no for me. The away kit is a Chrome extension. Yeah, 1 second. I'm going to put people on timeouts. Try not to spam the chat. Bernardo Silva, Gundogan. Right now, I'd say Bernardo Silva. Typically, I prefer Gundogan, but I think Silva's a bit more nailed. 4.5 million defenders, I mean, there's not really too much. In the long term, there's Fofana. You've also got the likes of Emerson, Palmieri. You've got Nico Williams and Patterson. But there's not too much. I think I'd probably look towards the likes of Ben White if you want someone for this week. Or you could even go to Anderson. I like him a lot in the long term from Crystal Palace, but I just don't know if you're asking for this week or long term. I'm not doing a free hit. I've recommended all week to not free hit if you can. I don't think it's worth it. Versus Spurs defender for a 1 week punt is Perisic, but I just don't know if he's going to start. Wilson and Mbumo, I wouldn't go there. I think Tony's worth the extra million or so. Same with Isak this week. Best 8 million option in the midfield. For this week, like I said, Saka Kulusevski. Long term, I would actually give you a different answer and it'd be Maddison or Zaha. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Thank you, Patrick, for becoming a differential. I very much appreciate it. And all the new channel members this week. We've got like over 20 or 30 new channel members this week. So thank you very much to everyone. And we also got, I think, around 10 new patrons. So thank you very much for all the support. Sinistera, I actually like him as a punt. I think that's a decent option, actually, yeah. I prefer him over the likes of Almiron and all these other options around his price and below. Triple Newcastle defence, I think for this week, yes. I wouldn't want to do it long term. A double up is definitely fine enough. And if you really back them for the clean sheet, go for it. Gordon or Almiron this week? Probably Almiron for the fixture. Bailey, Andreas, Pereira, Perisic. Which one to play and bench order? I'd probably still start Perisic, but I would have concerns about him starting. And in terms of the bench order, I'd probably put Bailey first and Andreas second, but it's really close, and I honestly would want to start all of them. Should I go for Emerson on the wild card? Bear in mind that Cresswell is coming back, and there could be rotation, especially if West Ham play a back four, and they do alternate between back three and back four. So he's not kind of a nailed-on player. You know, have realistic expectations. He's a 4 million defender, and when he starts, he could have a decent chance of clean sheets with the fixtures coming up. So I think he's a good option, but don't expect him to start all the time. Thank you, Ori. It's good to see you here once again. Or Ori, should I say? No, apparently Bailey's playing. Apparently Bailey's starting the game, according to Sam Martin, who tends to get his new spot on. Thank you, Amir, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Target 17 points incoming. I mean, let's wait and see. I don't think he's ever got 17 points. He got a few good hauls for Aston Villa. 17 points would be ridiculous. Let's wait and see. Do you think Son will start? There's a chance actually that he's benched as well, you know, with his poor performances. And to be honest, if you look at it in terms of performance, Harry Kane, Kulusevski and Richarlison should be the front three, but he does have a lot of credit in the bank, and he was obviously the top scorer last season. So I still think he starts, but there's also, like, let's say it's a 60-40% chance of him starting, you know. There is a good chance that he is going to be on the bench, so I wouldn't count on him. Thank you, Lago. It's good to see you. Who to replace Diaz with? Long-term Zaha, Maddison for me. If you want someone for this week, it'd be a different answer, as I've said earlier, but those would be my two favourites. Højbjerg, no. I'd only consider him in UCL Fantasy because of ball recoveries or Sky Fantasy Football. Never in FPL. Never. Yes, he has gotten quite a few, let's say, returns this season with the goals. I still wouldn't count on it. Thank you, by the way. We've got over 400 people watching. And like I said, the stream's recently been incredible. We've got over 1,000 in the UCL Fantasy streams as well. And, you know, let's keep on smashing the like button and subscribing. We are very close to 15,000. And if we could get to today, you know, it'd be absolutely exceptional. And let's try to get this video to over 200 likes, and then we'll see where we can go from there. Should I go for Richarlison? No, I wouldn't go there. Honestly, I don't think it's worth it. You know, you've got Tony, you've got Isak for this week at least. You've got the likes of Mitrovic, Haaland, Harry Kane himself. I don't think it's worth taking a precious spot, a forward spot with Richarlison. And I just think he's going to be rotated. You know, despite how well he's done so far, I don't think he's going to start week in, week out. Welcome, Patrick. Is it worth taking a -8 just to field 11? It depends on the players you're bringing in, to be honest. I don't want to sit on the fence there. If you're bringing in the likes of De Bruyne and Nick Pope, and I think it possibly is worth it, but really, I try to limit it to a -4 maximum because, you know, there's a lot of blanks this week. I don't think it'll be a particularly high-scoring game week, and especially in the defense, there's not that many options you can go to, really. So I will try to limit it to a -4 and get to 10. I've actually only used 2 free transfers, and I've gotten to 10. I could take a -4 hit and get to 11 with Perisic, but I'm still not too convinced. So honestly, my answer would be try to not go for a -8 if you can. Play Maddison or Bailey? I'd play Bailey this week, actually. I'm looking at the fixture purely there. Dean on a wildcard thoughts. Like I said, Christian, earlier, I answered your question already. I wouldn't go for him on a wildcard. I don't like him as an option anyway. I don't think his attacking threat is really there. Aston Villa are poor defensively. They've got good fixtures, but I've been burned by their assets earlier this season. And the only one I'd go to, really, is Leon Bailey. I think Watkins is actually injured, potentially. Bernardo or Foden? Right now, I'd still go for Foden. Foden will be my pick there. So Maximan, it doesn't look like he's going to start. What do you think of this team? Cancelo, Pope, Perisic, Trippier, Pereira, Saint-Maximin. It's a good team, but Saint-Maximin is probably not going to start there, mate. So the rest is fine, but Saint-Maximin is a huge doubt. I don't think he's going to start this week at all. He's been training individually. If I've got the wrong news, by the way, then be sure to correct me. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think he's available. Bailey or Gordon? I'd go for Bailey. Botman nailed. It's a difficult one because obviously he did get benched against Liverpool a few weeks ago. I think he will start most games, but there will be the odd benching here and there. But I think he is one of the main and best centre-backs that Newcastle have, to be fair. And Botman and Schär is the main partnership. But Burn also has done well whenever he's been called upon, and he's got a bit of credit in the bank. So I think Botman is actually more likely than not, compared to Schär at least, to be benched. I do have Cancelo. It's the guy in the middle. Obviously, we've got the away kits, but I do have Cancelo. Captain Jesus thoughts. I mean, it's a good fixture. I think it could be a high-scoring game, but I don't think I can bring myself to captain an Arsenal player this week. Tony or Jesus? For this week, Jesus, long-term Tony. So really, I just say Tony. Luis Diaz to Maddison this week for a -8 or next week for a -4. No wildcard left. I wouldn't do it for a -8, to be honest. So if you have 10 players, then just stick with that and don't take the extra hit. For this week, is anyone better than Kulusevski around the 8 million? Potentially Saka. Other than that, possibly Bowen, but really it's just Saka who's the only one who can challenge him. Best 6.5 million midfielder option. I think Sinistera could be right up there. I'm not sure what his exact price is, but Sinistera I do like the look of. Thoughts on Newcastle forward? I mean, Isak is a good option for this week, but I wouldn't want him long term because Callum Wilson is going to be back fairly soon. He could even be back this weekend. And honestly, I think that's too much of a headache, really. He could be eased back in. They don't want to rush him and him to get injured once again. But I just wouldn't want them long term. Tony or Isak? Like I said, long term I'd like to have Tony. So that's my answer. But I think Isak will outscore him this week. Thoughts on wildcard in Game Week 13? I mean, it's all team dependent. I don't see anything wrong with it. There's also Game Week 12, which is a good time, especially with the City-Arsenal blank potentially. But I think for most people, Game Week 9 is the best time to wildcard. But once again, you can't speak on everyone's behalf. Sessegnon for Perisic this game week. I think Sessegnon will start and Perisic could start on the right, but I'm not too sure about that. And honestly, I don't like Sessegnon too much because I took a look actually earlier at his points this season and he started 3 games, which is good. I think it's free. But in one of them, he got subbed off around 56 minutes for a 1-pointer. And in the other one, he got subbed off around 65 minutes. And that leads you to believe that there's a good chance that he'll be subbed off around the 60-minute mark and you could get a 1-pointer very easily. So I wouldn't be too confident about that. Will Walker play? I don't think so. Is this a free hit? No, it's just my team with 2 free transfers. And obviously on a free hit, I wouldn't have 10 players. Obviously, as you can see, Reece James is blanking. Thoughts on Willian? I wouldn't go anywhere near him right now, to be honest. He's been off form. Well, I wouldn't even call it form at this point. His level has dropped over the last few years. At Arsenal, he was awful. And also in Brazil, his level dropped even further. Why would you captain Haaland, Mitrovic, De Bruyne, Son or Tony? From those lot, I'd still go for Haaland, but I really like Mitrovic as a differential option. Harry Kane, I think, would be my captain if I had him this week. Potentially. I mean, it's a difficult one. Suggest a West Ham mid for this game week? I mean, it'd be Bowen. It's as simple as that. There's also Paqueta, but I think Bowen would be my favourite. De Bruyne or Son? De Bruyne. There's a good chance that Son could be benched this week. I'm not saying he will, but there is a chance there. Will Haaland start? I believe so, but, you know, don't rule it out. You know, there's kind of a short turnaround. City are playing early tomorrow, so let's wait and see. 1 second, just dealing with spammers. Best West Ham defender for Game Week 8. Probably Emerson because he's cheap. And another alternative is also Sufal, actually. Hi, Dylan. Salah to De Bruyne for a -4. I think it's worth it, yeah. Trend replacements, please. Obviously, the obvious one is Cancelo. Then you've got a few others like Trippier. I think Trippier is a must-have right now. Then you're looking at someone like Perisic, but he might not even start this week. Thank you, Jackson. Saka Kulusevski for 2 weeks. Honestly, Saka. If the Arsenal-Spurs game goes ahead, which I think it will, by the way, with all this kind of murmurings going around, I think Arsenal tend to do, obviously, very well in the home games against Spurs, and Saka is more likely to start both games compared to Kulusevski, who could play one and then be dropped for the other one. Will Kulusevski start? I think so. I can't tell you that for sure, but I think he will. You know, keep an eye out on the kind of predicted lineups from the likes of Paul O'Keefe and everything else you see on Twitter first. But yeah, I think he will start. Kane or De Bruyne? Long term, it's De Bruyne. I think he's a really good placeholder for Salah, maybe around Game Week 12, for example. I'd actually rather have De Bruyne. But I think it's really close between the two. Smash the like button. Thank you, John. It's good to see you once again. Good backup defender. I have Trippier, Schär, Cancelo and Diaz. Backup, I'd say Emerson, or you're looking at potentially Nico Williams. It's one of those two or Patterson. And honestly, Emerson is my favourite, but he's a 4 million defender and he's not going to start every single week. Son or Kulusevski? Kulusevski right now. Thoughts on Bowen? I think he's a good option with the fixtures. I think he will start to produce some returns, but I prefer Maddison long term, really. Gay Dylan, yeah, he's another good one, but I prefer Anderson from Palace. Maddison or Bowen? Maddison long term. For this week, Bowen. Replacement for Trent, already have Cancelo and Trippier. Then if you want to risk it, I'd go for Perisic, but you know, this is the reason why I haven't taken a -4 hit so far. I don't like the options, but you know, beyond Cancelo and Trippier, so it's quite difficult. Where did the Spurs players go? I just don't have them, to be honest. I might get Perisic for a -4 hit, but I just, apart from Kane in Game Week 1, I've not had Spurs players all season. Is it worth getting Zaha on a wildcard and stick him on the bench? I think it is, and in my wildcard team video, he was on my bench and in my wildcard team. Captain Isak, I wouldn't go there, to be honest. But it's completely up to you. It's a good fixture. It's arguably the best that he'll have all season. Maddison or Soucek for this game week? Maddison. Would you have Son on a free hit? No, I wouldn't. I went for KDB, Isak for this week instead of Foden, Kulusevski and Kane. Really hard choice. No, that's fair enough. That's completely fine. 2 defenders for 2 million. For 2 million, for 10 million. You're going to be a bit limited. I said Perisic and Soufal is really good, but I just don't know if they're going to start. Another alternative is going for Diaz and Emerson, so that's 2 good duos for you there. Why don't you let Bowen for the long term? I mean, the thing is, he hasn't really shown what he's capable of all season. I don't think he's been anywhere near the levels he showed in the last campaign. And I just think Maddison's a better option in general. You know, he ended the last season really strongly. He started this one really well. So look, he's a good option, but I think there are better ones elsewhere. And Zaha is even better than probably both of them, actually. Gay or Fofana? Probably Gay, actually, but Anderson's my favourite out of the lot. Captain Trippier? No, I wouldn't go there personally, but not a bad option. Probably from defenders, he's the best one, along with Cancelo. Chelsea players got high expected clean sheet for the next 3 game weeks. Yes, they do, but I think James is enough, and Chelsea haven't been that great. Even with Graham Potter, they conceded with one of the only chances they conceded all game against Salzburg, so I think there's a lot of issues there. Best 5 million midfielder? Probably Bailey right now, and Andres Pereira. They're my 2 favourites. Ben White or Zinchenko? Ben White would be my favourite. Zinchenko might not even start this week, and it's all privy to a late fitness test for the Ukrainian. For the wildcard, what are the best cheap options in defence and midfield? Nico and Andreas? Andreas, yes, and in the defence, I would maybe go for Emerson Palmieri, if you want someone really cheap like that. No, I don't think Sir Maximan plays King Harry, no. When you're planning to wildcard, probably next week, and I'll just stomach the 10 men this week and just wildcard next week with more information, the international break, and I'll also have a few things that are a bit clearer, potentially. Will Cucurella play next game week? I can't tell you that for sure, but I think so. He started the first game on the Graham Potter. He's got a bit of history with him on the Brighton, of course, last season. I think, I think Cucurella will start, but I can't tell you that for sure. Bailey or Gordon? I prefer Bailey for sure. Welcome, George. Welcome, Safir. The away kiss is a Chrome extension. It's nothing fancy. Rice or Fornals or Soucek in order, please. Jesus, voice crack. Fornals first, Soucek second, Rice third. That would be the way I'd rank it. Do I start Maddison or Emerson? I'd start Emerson this week, actually. So I'm going to give you the predicted points for this week and also the fixture ticker, and I'll be right back. Just a little bit of a break, and I'll also go for the super chat. Thank you very much for those of you that have sent in the super chats and become members today. I very much appreciate it. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes, and let's get to 15,000 subscribers today. I think it's possible, so consider subscribing, and be right back. I'll show you these predicted points, and let me know what you think of them in the live chat. So let's wait and see. All right, we are back, and I have to say, what is Son doing top of this predicted points thing? Now, if he does a really good job against Leicester, fair enough, but with his form, I can't really see him being above the likes of Kane, Haaland, etc. As you can see, Isak is right up there, even above the likes of Mitrovic. Luka Dean is one of the highest in terms of predicted points. I personally think Southampton will score, and I don't trust Aston Villa's defence, so let me know what you think. But yeah, some of these I just don't really agree with. Trippier is also quite low in there. For Dean to be higher than Trippier is quite surprising, to be fair, but there you go. And yeah, Heung-min Son top of this list. Not too sure about that one. And then we've got the fixture ticker. Fulham are top. You've also got the likes of Leicester and Aston Villa. That's why a lot of people are considering the likes of Luka Dean, Maddison, and also Mitrovic. I wouldn't go for Luka Dean, but the others, yes, I think they're good options, and I think they'll do a good job, especially in the case of Mitrovic. And then look at the ones in the bottom. Brighton, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City. So some of the best teams, especially in terms of FPL assets this season, all with poor fixtures, with some blanks in there as well, which is quite surprising. With the exception there, actually, there's no exception, is there? No, because even Liverpool obviously blanking this week. So there you go. We're going to go back to my team. Hopefully no more voice cracks, but I can't really guarantee you anything. I'm still a bit ill, I think, but very, very close to recovering fully. So I'm going to get dropped. Imagine it's possible. I think it's possible. Now, I haven't wildcarded. I'm probably going to wildcard next week. Saka or Bailey on a free hit. I'd go for Saka. Foden or Bernardo. I'd go for Foden. But I'm warming up to the idea of Bernardo a little bit more, but I don't think he's a good long-term option. Son or De Bruyne. De Bruyne all day long for me. Just got Creswell. Thoughts? I mean, I can't tell you for sure if he's going to start. And even if he does, and West Ham play a back three, for example, he could be the left centre-back and Emerson plays as the left wing-back. So I'm not a big fan of Creswell right now. I think he was much better 2 seasons ago. But let's wait and see. I don't think it's the worst time to bring him in. If I wildcard, do I keep my free transfers? You only have 1 free transfer after playing a wildcard. So yeah. Game week 12 will be massive with the blank and Liverpool fixtures, yes. And I think that's a good time to go from De Bruyne to Salah. And that's the kind of way you can navigate that period. Is Emerson nailed on? He's not going to start in, week out for me. West Ham fans will know more than myself, but I don't think so. Defender for 7.5 million and under. So pretty much anyone in the game. So for me, Cancelo, Trippier are the ones you have to have. And the rest, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I like Reece James long term, but he's blanking this week. So there's not that many defenders that I can recommend for you this week, to be honest. And that answers Kempachi's question, why am I not taking a -4 and getting 11 players? Because I don't like the defenders that I need to bring in to replace Trent or James. And obviously, I'm going to wildcard next week anyway, potentially. So I don't think a hit is absolutely necessary. If I think Perisic starts and I'm convinced about it, then I will probably take the -4. But even then, I think Leicester could score in that game. And Spurs haven't been that great anyway. Must-have midfielder for this game week. Probably Kulusevski or Saka will be right up there. And the kind of obvious one is De Bruyne. So Maximan's still not playing? I don't think so. I'll try to get the exact quotes so I can give you the exact information you need, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to start. He's been training individually recently, and there's no real need to risk him. All right, let's try to bring this up. All right, so yeah, the close. Yeah, it's all down to a late fitness test with Saint-Maximin, apparently, and he could be back for this weekend, but I wouldn't count on it. That's the thing. It's a really big risk. Obviously, high risk, high reward, but I don't have enough faith in Saint-Maximin as an FPL asset to really recommend it, to be honest. Should I use Gabriel? Depends who you would start him over, but I don't think that's, there's nothing wrong with that. Do you think Perisic will play? I think he could, and maybe as a right wing back based on Conte's comments, but I think Sessegnon starts too. That's the thing, and it's really difficult to judge that. It's a really weird situation with Spurs. They've got 3 right wing backs, and they could play a left wing back and the right wing back spot. It's just crazy. Is Jesus one to watch? Not necessarily. His ownership is over 73%, so we all know about him. I think he's a good option this week, and I'd look to sell in Game Week 9. Thoughts on Diego Costa? I honestly, I'm not looking at it. He's just someone to maybe monitor, but Wolves have scored 3 goals all season. I'm not really keen. Sergio Gomez didn't start in the Champions League, so he could this week, but yeah, I don't think he's going to start week in, week out. That's the thing. And he's just someone that I'd like to have if he's nailed, but honestly, for City, I would rather go for Diaz, spend the extra million, and guarantee you someone who's going to start 90% of games. And obviously, he's another one who got benched in the Champions League. Best second starting goalkeeper. Just Ward, because yes, he's not going to get that many points, but he's a starting goalkeeper at 4 million, so that's really it. I wouldn't want to, have Henderson and Nick Pope. I think that's too much money for goalkeepers in FPL. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Just for this game week, as playing wildcard next week, Cancelo, Bailey, and Kane, or Perisic, Sessegnon, KDB, and Isak. Really good question. I think for this week only, I'd probably go for the Cancelo, Bailey, and Kane route because they're all going to start, really. Bailey's a bit of a doubt, but Sam Martin said he's going to start, and I trust that information. Cancelo and Kane are very, kind of locked in. With Perisic, Sessegnon, you don't know what you're going to get. KDB's locked in, to be fair, and Isak, but yeah, it's really tough. I think the first trio, should I say, is kind of safer. But if you think Perisic starts, go for him, and I'd probably go the KDB Isak route. It's a kind of difficult question for me to answer because I'm 50-50 on Perisic starting, and that's why I'm leaning more towards the first trio for you. Let me try get up the other super chat I missed. So thank you, Surab. Thanks for amazing content and answering our doubts. Thank you very much for your kind words and for the donation. I very much appreciate it, mate, and I almost forgot it, so my bad for that, but thank you for putting it in. Thank you, John, for being a member for almost a year. That's incredible. It's good to see you here once again. It's been a long time. Thank you very much. What about Ward-Prowse for Salah this game week? Not really feeling it, to be honest, and you're really relying on free kicks or set pieces. Who's the Newcastle penalty taker? I'm actually not too sure. I think Callum Wilson when he's on the pitch, obviously, but in his absence, I think it probably would be Isak, but I can't tell you that for sure. Who should I start, Dyer or Emerson Real? Probably Dyer, because I'm not that sure about Emerson starting right now. Maddison or Bowen? I'd go for Maddison long term. Isak and Mitrovic now and bring in Jesus game week 13. Yes, especially if you're wildcarding. I'd rather go for those two and Haaland, and then you can always bring in Tony, or, like you said, Jesus in game week 13. 1 week punt for 8.7 million. I'd probably say Saka or Kulusevski. We'll say maximum play. I can't tell you that for sure. You know, it's all down to a late fitness test. I don't know the results of that fitness test. Let's just wait and see. My initial feeling is that he's not going to start, but I could be wrong. Bernardo or Bowen? I'd rather have Bowen. Who have more minutes this game week, Son or KDB? I think KDB, but there's an argument for both of them being benched, to be fair. 1 blank or -4? I'm in the same position right now. I'm leaning towards 1 blank. Salah, Trent and Greenwood out for Trippier, Bailey and Haaland. Looks good to me. I'd probably do that, mate. Dylan Kane and Paqueta or Foden, Kulusevski and Mitrovic. Honestly, I prefer the second duo because I'm not that keen on Paqueta right now. I want to see more from him first. Should I let 4 blanks or wildcard? I mean, 4 blanks is a lot. You're down to 7 players. I'd probably wildcard in that case. Kane, Bailey or Tony Maddison, Zaha for long term. Long term, I have to say probably Tony and Maddison. I mean, well, I say Maddison, it could be Zaha as well. Honestly, because of how poor Leicester are, I'd say I'd go for Tony and Zaha. That would be my preference. But Maddison's also a really good choice. Fofana, Dylan? I don't know. What about him? I mean, yes, he's a 4.4 million defender who could do really well, of course. Do I expect him to start week in, week out? I'm actually not that sure. I think he could be dropped, you know, every now and then. And I actually just think there's better options in general. I'd rather maybe downgrade to a cheaper defender and then invest in the likes of Reece James. I'm not that keen on doubling up on Chelsea defence right now. Obviously, things can change. Do you think getting Isak in Game Week 8 wildcard and then moving on to Tony in Game Week 9 is a good option? Yeah, I think it's fine. I talked about this in the best wildcard team. I think Isak's ceiling is higher than Ivan Toney for sure. Saka, Kulusevski, long-term Saka. For this game week, I think Kulusevski, but I'll just go for Saka. I kind of prefer talking about the long-term picks, and for me, a Saka. Who should I play over Perisic? I have free hit. The thing is, on a free hit, I probably would risk it with Perisic, but if you're not sure about him starting, then maybe just go for the likes of Luka Dean if you really want. I mean, I just can't bring myself to say that. Or triple up on Newcastle defence or double up with Man City defence. That's probably the way to go. You're putting your eggs in kind of 1 or 2 baskets, but I'd rather do that than go for Luka Dean. Cucurella and Kulusevski or James and Zaha? James and Zaha, for sure. Just the thought, you think players are more likely to play... wait, 1 second, let me just... Okay, now we've got the right screen on. Players are more likely to play for their country in the World Cup to be prone to early substitutions. I mean, the players like Haaland, Salah, who aren't going to the World Cup have an obvious advantage, but I don't think it'll play that big of a part, to be fair. The main concern these managers will have is, you know, the gap in between their own games. You know, the World Cup is its own thing, you know, and these players want to play, they want to cement themselves as starters for their countries. So I don't think it'll be that big of an influence. If anything, it's how they come back, you know, in January, how, you know, they will do upon their return, also December, late December, of course. So that would be the big concern, not necessarily, you know, substitutions and stuff before, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Emerson or Soufal? I think long term, if you want someone, you know, you can trust as a 3rd or 4th defender, I'd go for Soufal. Emerson is just a 4 million defender who will probably start, you know, half the games, maybe a bit more. But I think Soufal is just a more nailed on option. And if you can afford it, I'd go for him. Maddison or Zaha long term? Probably Zaha. Do you think Sessegnon starts? I believe so, but honestly, like I said earlier, I'm not keen on Sessegnon. He started 3 games, and in 2 of them, he came off around 60 minutes, and in 1 of them, he came off around 56 minutes, so he got a 1-pointer. I don't like that at all. Who do you think will start in defense for City? Good question. I think it will be Cancelo. I think Sergio Gomez, but I could be completely wrong about that. Akanji and Diaz, but it could easily be Stones as the right back, and it's going to be Cancelo left back and Sergio Gomez being benched. So let's wait and see. It's definitely going to be, I'd say, 4 out of those 5. Isak and De Bruyne or Kane and Bowen wildcard. Isak and De Bruyne. And then I would probably move off Isak in the weeks to come. Royale or Perisic? I'd go for Perisic, but I'm kind of in 2 minds about both of them starting. Any data on expected rail strike for Game Week 9? Not necessarily, but like I mentioned earlier towards the beginning of the stream, take it with a pinch of salt. Games have actually gone ahead even with rail strikes going around. So, it doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. Fofana, sure starter. I don't think he starts every single game, but he starts the majority, so 75%. I can't put an exact figure on it, of course, but I don't think he's the most nailed-on player in the Chelsea defence. Thoughts on Sergio Aurier? Not really considering him. I'd rather go for Nico Williams for Nottingham Forest, so Aurier's a no for me. Any good Gundogan replacement? Zaha, long-term. For this week, you're probably looking at someone like Bowen. Will Perisic start? Like I said earlier, I believe he will, but I'm honestly kind of 51-49 about it, if anything. I can't tell you for sure. Mitrovic or Isak? Mitrovic. Do you think Martinelli will be good for this game week? Yes, I think he's a good option. Probably one of the best around his price. But in terms of a wildcard, it's a bit awkward because he does have the blank in Game Week 12 and he's got some tough fixtures before that. Romero play? Yes, but he's not someone I'd like to take a hit for example. KDB or Haaland? Haaland. Andreas or Soucek? Andreas all day long for me. Are you wildcarding Game Week 9? Probably, to be honest, yeah. Paqueta or Fornals? I'd actually rather go for Fornals right now. Saka or Maddison for tomorrow? Saka. For this week, it's Saka. Long-term Maddison. I answered that question already, Craig. Gordon and Emerson Royale or Soufal and Maddison? Soufal Maddison, long-term. Bowen or Foden? Bowen. Should I wildcard or not? I don't know your team, so it's difficult for me to say, but let's say, for example, you can't get to 10 or 11 without taking a -8 or something. In that case, I would wildcard. Otherwise, you could wait another week like I'm doing, potentially, and wildcard in Game Week 9. Should I wildcard on... Oh, yeah, just said that. Kulusevski or Bowen this game week? Kulusevski. But, obviously, take it with a pinch of salt. He could even be benched as well, but with the assumption that he starts, which I think he will, I'd definitely go for Kulusevski. Best 7 million midfielder who's not Martinelli. Maybe Sinistera is someone you... sorry, not even Sinistera. He's blanking this game week. 7 million midfielder. I probably wouldn't go for Odegaard. You could really risk it with Saint-Maximin, but it's all down to a late fitness test. Honestly, it's kind of grim reading, the options. Maybe I'm missing somebody, but yeah, I'd have to think about that. Saint-Maximin, it would be my favourite, but like I said, I just don't know if he's going to start. What to do with Richarlison? I wouldn't go for him. If you have him, I'd probably look to sell him. I know it's kind of a weird time to do it because Leicester's a good fixture. He could start, but in the long term, he's not someone I'd like to have, to be honest. Thank you, Samar, for the super chat. Jesus to Isaac or Isak for -4 or Jesus Tony to Mitrovic, Isak for -8. Honestly, my answer is don't do a hit. Jesus is owned by over 70% of the game and he's facing Brentford. I think he could do well in this game. It's in the long term where you want to get rid of him. So maybe do Jesus to Mitrovic next week, but don't get rid of him now for a -4 or a -8. I wouldn't do that, honestly. That's just my opinion. Back your gut on that one. If I had to pick one option, it would be the -4. But honestly, I tried to avoid it altogether and keep Jesus for one more week at least. Bailey Hall incoming is possible. Southampton and Aston Villa are poor teams, but Bailey's been decent so far. Welcome, Lee. Maddison or Diaz long term? Maddison. Saka Kulusevski free hit? Kulusevski, but he's riskier. Fofana sure starter? Like I said earlier, he's not a sure starter. He's not going to start every single week, but that's just my opinion. Will Gundogan start this week? I couldn't tell you. I think he will, but it's just not something I can tell you with conviction. Start Nico Williams or Andreas? Andreas for me, all day long. For this game week, Saint-Maximin or Isak? If Saint-Maximin was fully fit and I had no doubts about it, I would go for him and then cover, Newcastle attack with someone else, or not Newcastle attack, and I'd go for another forward basically, but Isak is just a safer pick. I'd go for him. Bowen, Maddison or Gordon? Maddison long term. That would be my pick. Best Saint-Maximin replacement? Apart from Martinelli, I'd probably look at someone like Odegaard or Sinistera if you're looking long term, but obviously he's blanking this week. Kane or Haaland captain? Really close. I'd be tempted by the Kane captaincy, actually, with his record against Leicester, the fact they're bottom of the league, they're one of the worst defences, and Haaland is facing one of the best defences. Then you obviously have to consider other factors in Haaland's favour. He's playing for a much better team. He's got better underlying numbers. So I don't think it's easy. I'd be tempted by the Kane captaincy. Zuma or Soufal? Soufal. Is this a good team, says Lyle? Yes, it is, to be honest. For this game week, it looks exceptional, if anything. I'm not a huge fan of Paqueta. I want to see more from him. But the rest, I think, could do really well. Currently on Wildcard, 14.5 million in the bank. Zaha plus Tony or any other combo. That's the combo I'd go for. I talked about this earlier as well with other people. That would be my preference. And then, yeah, you've got the other midfielders. I prefer Maddison over Bowen long term, but for this game week, I understand why you did it. Zaha Tony is simple. I'd do that, to be honest. Thank you, Junior. Bowen, Kulusevski, Foden or KDB, Pereira, Bailey. I'd probably still go for KDB, Pereira, Bailey, so long as you have good midfielders, you know, the other two midfielders are good, and you've got a good squad overall. Which cheap City defender short-term? Akanji, Stones, Ake. I think Akanji will start, but I can't tell you that with confidence. I think Akanji, but his ceiling will be low, I think. Is Ben Davis nailed on? Not necessarily, because, you know, in the left wing-back spot, there's Perisic and Sessegnon, and as the left centre-back, you've got the likes of Lenglet. So, not too sure about that. I wouldn't go for him. Do you think you'll make some changes to your team? The only change I could make, unless I suddenly I got a eureka moment and I wildcard, is to take a -4 and get Perisic potentially for Trent or James. That's the only thing I could do, really, I think. The Kane triple captaincy versus Leicester is nuts in the double game week coming. Yeah, no, it makes sense on paper, to be fair. You know, it's one of the best single game weeks, even though, you know, Leicester typically are a decent team, but they aren't this season. Honestly, though, yeah, I think I'd save it for a double game week, especially on someone like Haaland, you know, with how good he is. Is Premier Mid necessary? I think so. I would try to do it because I think Salah will become a good option in the weeks to come, probably around game week 12. A or B? A Kane, Foden, Isak, KDB, easy move to Salah, game week 9. KDB, Isak would be my preference, but I don't like Isak too much in the long term. I would rather go for the likes of Tony, but you can always make that move in a few weeks' time. You're going to go game week 8 with James. I mean, it's just down to 10 men, really. It's just to avoid a -4 hit. It's not that big of a deal for me. Jesus or Tony this week? Jesus. -4 for Lingard, Gordon or Andreas? None of them, to be honest, but if I had to pick one, it'd probably be Andreas, but I wouldn't do that. Odegaard or Martinelli? I'd go for the Brazilian, Martinelli. -4 for midfielder, 6 million? No, I wouldn't do it. So you think Stones won't start? I didn't necessarily say that. I think he could start as the right back. And if not, it will be Cancelo right back and Sergio Gomez left back. And if not, obviously, with Stones being right back, Cancelo plays left back. So I just don't know for sure. I think Diaz will start. He was rested midweek, but I can't tell you that, you know, with confidence. Will Bernardo Silva start? I believe so, but, you know, me predicting City is just not a good idea. Tete, good choice? Nope. From Fulham, I'd go for Andreas and Mitrovic, and that's it. Ward-Prowse short-term, it's not a bad shout, but you're really relying on the set pieces, really. Do you think... No, like I said, Benji Boy, I kind of covered that already. Can't make my mind up on wildcard in this game week or next, or game week 12-13. I think if you have 10 or 11 players this week, you could maybe afford to wildcard in game week 9 with the international break, and you've got more information. Game week 12 is also nice, but I'd say game week 9 for most people, but I don't know your team. Start Andreas or Bailey. If I had to pick one, I'd put Bailey, but it's really close. -4 for a 7 million midfielder? No, not for me, honestly. And it's similar to me with the defenders. I'm not that confident in most of the options, and that's why I'd say no. Yeah, Crispy, I mean, that's the thing I also figured out. You know, for this week, I'd have a very similar team on the wildcard. So I'd actually rather wait another week, but obviously everyone's got a different team and circumstance. Yeah, I've made my transfers already. I've made 2 transfers. I brought in Pope and Kevin De Bruyne for Sanchez and Salah. I could take another, you know, make another transfer, take a hit, but yeah. -4 for Son? No, not for me. Newcastle predicted lineup? I mean, the ones I'm quite confident of starting are the usual, you know, Pope, Trippier, I'd say Cher, Botman. Then you're looking at the likes of... Is Saint-Maximin going to start? I'm not sure, but Isak, Almiron... Yeah, Saint-Maximin is all down to a late fitness test, so it's really difficult with some of these options. And Target, let's wait and see. Any reason you don't want to bring Kane for your team? Because long-term, I'd rather have a structure like this with 1 premium midfielder and 1 premium forward. It's as simple as that. And also, I think City are a much more reliable team, and I think De Bruyne will get a lot of points by assisting Haaland. So, yeah, that's why I'm going for this. Best 6 midfielders or less. Maybe Almiron as a 1 week punt, but honestly, I'd probably just go for Bailey, really, and I wouldn't take it for that. -4 for Kane. I think it's a good transfer, to be fair. But also think about when you're going to wildcard, which players you're bringing in and out. You have to think about these things as well. Sergio Gomez 1 week punt before Game Week 8, Game Week 9 wildcard. I mean, he was rested in midweek, so it's not a bad shout, but I just don't know. I think his ceiling's low. I mean, he was decent when he played in his debut in the Champions League, but I don't know about that. Soufal and Foden or Cresswell and Bernardo. Soufal and Foden, but I'm not a big fan of those. And yeah, I think City mid to Zaha is the way to go. Isak as captain, not for me. Look, play the game the way you want to. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't go for Isak as a captain. Yeah, same here. I mean, look, if you just think about it, Trippier and Cancelo, you know, they're the obvious picks. Everyone has them. And then the rest, I mean, it's just not that good. I'm wildcarding probably next week. Isak, Mitrovic, Haaland took off Jesus, though, as he has 3 tough games. I wouldn't have got rid of Jesus this week. I would do it next week, which is what I'm probably looking to do. And that's another reason why I haven't played the wildcard this week. But, you know, the front three you have is as good, if not better, than what Jesus would have been offering, to be fair, even in this week. If you're free hitting, would you put Saint-Maximin in and have Andreas as your first substitute? It's really risky. It's high risk, high reward. Same with Perisic. Maybe, but I think on the free hit team, you can check out that video. I didn't have Saint-Maximin, and I went for the likes of Saka and Kulusevski. I definitely had Kulusevski in there, maybe not Saka. Emerson or Soufal? If you can afford it and you want someone to start most weeks, it would be Soufal. Emerson's the better bench option, so to speak. Perisic or Romero? Perisic, but I'm not sure if he starts. Almiron a dark horse, around his price and below potentially, but he's not someone you can rely on long term. I wouldn't go for him, you know, beyond Game Week 8. Onana for the long term? No, not for me. Soucek or Fornals? Fornals, but still, for me, it's neither of them. Thoughts on Perisic this week? I think Sessegnon starts, but there's the possibility of Perisic starting on the right, which Conte talked about yesterday, but I just don't know. It's 50-50 for me, if anything. I just don't know if Perisic starts, and that's why I haven't made the transfer. If I was confident of him starting, I would bring him in for a -4 hit, potentially. Rashford for long term? Well, he is injured right now, and obviously blanks anyway, but he's someone you could look at on the wildcard in Game Week 9 or as a transfer, but really, I'm a bit less keen on him now. But yeah, Abir, you asked this question many times already. I don't know what else to say. The answer basically for me is no. Thoughts on Bowen? He's a good option. I think he will start to turn things around with the fixtures he has, but I do prefer Maddison long term. Viva Paqueta. I actually disagree. I don't really like him, but you know, he's a good player. Is it better if I put Zaha for Diaz or the other way around? Yes, I'd rather have Zaha long term. Casemiro and FPL, no chance. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, yeah, that's the final straw. Worth keeping. 1 second. Can't get your message up right now. Worth keeping Trent instead of a -4 because his price will drop, so you lose value. But the thing is, I probably will wildcard in Game Week 9, and as soon as the deadline is gone, I will just wildcard and I will get rid of Trent potentially anyway. Even if I bring him back in by the time the Game Week 9 deadline, you know, comes around, I can patch ahead and, you know, not lose value because of that stuff. So it's not a big deal. Captain Son or Haaland? Haaland all day long for me. Meslier long term? No, I don't trust Leeds United defensively. Bring in Ruben Diaz or Perisic? Diaz is the safer pick. You know, it's as simple as that. But Perisic has the highest ceiling. I probably would be looking at Perisic, but I don't think you can go wrong with either. Diaz has the better chance of a clean sheet. Perisic of a big return. You all know this. I just don't know if Perisic starts, so I just can't tell you that. Mitrovic or Isak this week? Still Mitrovic. No Liverpool defence in future fixtures. I mean, I'm probably looking at getting Trent back in around Game Week 12, so it's not a big deal. I mean, they're facing the likes of Brighton. They've got Arsenal and City, you know, fairly soon. I mean, it's not a great set of fixtures. It's not my wildcard team. Do you think Emerson of West Ham will start? Yes, but in the long term, I think he won't start every game. Any 4.1 wildcard defender? Emerson. But like I just said with Rafe, I don't think he's going to start every single game. Hey Dylan, start Maddison, Andreas, or Emerson? I would start Andreas. I've got Mitrovic, so was thinking I don't really need to start Andreas. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you really, but I would go for Andreas. Foden or Bowen on the wild card? Bowen. Any league lineups? No. Not as far as I'm aware, no. Emerson or Nico Williams? Probably Emerson, but not a big fan of either, to be fair. They're just bench options and that's it. Son, Zaha or Kulusevski Bailey with 2 million in the bank long term. I mean, Son Zaha is better, but I'm not a big fan of Son. I'd actually rather go to Sterling in the long term. Salah or De Bruyne? Right now, De Bruyne. KDB versus Kane? I'd go for KDB, but they're both great options. Kane or Son or De Bruyne? De Bruyne. If Mitrovic gets a pen against Henderson, that's a safe pen. I mean, Mitrovic missed his only pen so far this season, so yeah, maybe. With the news of the blank for Chelsea in Game Week 9, it's not completely confirmed unless something has happened right now, but it's a possibility of a blank. It's not necessarily a blank in itself. So I'm going to check Twitter and see if there is any news, but I don't think there is. By the way, this is a pretty good lineup for you lot. I know everyone's kind of wondering about Perisic, so yeah. This would be it. I haven't even seen it myself, so this will be my first reaction as well. So, Perisic, yeah. 63, 64% of them predict Perisic to start. Yeah, that's quite interesting. So, no Sessegnon, is it? Now that's interesting. Not too sure about that, but yeah. We just don't know. That is the simple answer, really, that we've got. Welcome, Mats. I'm doing well. What about you? Foden or De Bruyne? De Bruyne. Foden or Bernardo? I'd go for Foden. Nico Williams or Patterson for the wild card. If it wasn't for Pickford's injury, I would definitely go for Patterson, but I'd probably still go for him. It's really close, though. They're both 4.1 million. Yeah, we do have issues with the railways. I'm aware of that. I talked about it at the beginning of the stream, but that doesn't mean the games will definitely be cancelled. KDB as a captain, not a bad shout. He scored 4 goals against Wolves last season. I think it's a good shout. I'd go for Sufa if you can afford it. It's completely up to you. Son, 62%. Yeah, I'm surprised it's not a bit lower, actually. Trippier in for Walker or Cucurella? I'd rather get rid of Walker right now, despite City being a better defence. Bailey and 5.4 million defender or Perisic and Andreas? If the 5.4 million defender is Trippier, then I would go for Bailey and Trippier. Otherwise, Perisic and Andreas is my preference. Is Brentford solid at defending? No, but they're decent at attacking. Son is low, Kulusevski 96. Yeah, I think Kulusevski will start as well. Hola Ralph, estoy bien, mi voz. Kane, Isak or Tony long term? Tony. Start Raya or Ward planning to wildcard next game week? This week, I mean, probably Raya. I just think that Brentford are less likely to get smashed by Arsenal than Leicester against Spurs, but I could be wrong. I've taken a -8. Should I take another hit to do Archer to Isak? I'd just start the Silva. I mean, you probably get a 1-pointer, but I mean, look, it really just comes down to, do you think Isak will, pay off that -4 hit? And if you think he does, go for it. But I think, big hits this week isn't worth it. That's just the way I see it. Let me just close the other tabs. But as we discussed at the beginning of the stream, if you haven't checked it out, then be sure to do so. We've covered this already in terms of the rail strikes, and take it with a pinch of salt. Let's see what happens over the international break. And it does maybe give the Game Week 9 wildcarders a bit of an advantage, but it is what it is. Best Spurs asset this game week? Harry Kane, for sure. And then it'd be Kulusevski, arguably. Playing 9 players, would it be fine? Yeah, I think so, to be fair. I think 9 or 10 is fine. Obviously, ideally, you'd want 11. -4 for midfielder. The only midfielder I'd take a -4 hit for is probably De Bruyne this week. I wouldn't do it for anyone else. Best option on the 7.8 million on the wildcard, Saka or Bailey in case North London postponed. Like I said, take the rail strikes and all that potential, postponements with a pinch of salt. I wouldn't go for Saka on a wildcard anyway. Only on a Game Week 8 I would consider it, but for Game Week 9, oh no, you're doing it for Game Week 8 anyway, that's fair enough. I probably would look at, I mean, it's tough, isn't it? It is tough. This is the thing. On a wildcard, I'd go for the likes of Bowen, Maddison, and Zaha. And Zaha's obviously blanking this week anyway, so it's tough. I'd probably go for Saka if you're wildcarding this week. Is Aston Villa better in defence than West Ham? No. I think West Ham are better defensively. I think in terms of underlying numbers, they're 4th or 5th. They've just been conceding stupid goals. Aston Villa's underlying numbers are much worse. Son or Kulusevski or Maddison or Bowen just for this week? Kulusevski. Thank you, Crispy. I appreciate it. Wildcard, no. This is not a wildcard team. Otherwise, I wouldn't have 10 players available. I'd have 11. Start Maddison or Emerson? This week, I'd probably be inclined to say Emerson, because I think there's a decent chance of a clean sheet for West Ham. It could be a 0-0, which is my prediction. Is Zinchenko going to play? It's all down to a late fitness test, but my gut feeling is that he won't be risked. But I could be wrong about this. It's just a gut feeling. It's nothing in the know. Gordon a shout. He's been decent this season, but I don't trust Everton offensively. I'd maybe consider Patterson in the defence, but that's it. I wouldn't go for him. Højbjerg or Bentancur? Neither in FPL. Neither. Is it worth taking a -8 for Mendy to Pope and Salah to KDB? Yes, it is, to be fair. I would. I'm not a big fan of hits, but I would do that. Should I take a -4 hit so I could play 10 players, already have KDB? It depends which player you're bringing in as part of that -4, to be honest. But, yeah. Best midfielder under 7.5 million for 2 weeks. Have Martinelli already. It's difficult, really, because my favourite is Zaha, but obviously he blanks and then plays Chelsea. So you're really limited in terms of these options. You could consider Odegaard. I know that sounds a bit weird. Say Maximan if you're willing to risk it. But really, other than that, I'm not a big fan of the rest. I might be missing someone, but for the most part, there's not many options. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Hype. Burn Leno. No, I wouldn't go for Leno as an option. No. No chance. Odegaard, Bailey, or Bowen? Long-term Bowen, so I'd go for him. Isak to captain, not for me. Best 8 million option. Don't want to double up with Saka and Martinelli. Maddison for me. Maddison, Zaha, Bowen. You know, they're the best options. And Maddison long-term, you know, with this fixture in mind as well, at least he plays compared to Zaha who blanks. You could go for Maddison. Do you lose your free hit if you wildcard? No, you don't use your... You can't play both at the same time, of course. But you don't lose the free hit. You still have it. Bailey or Bowen this week? Bailey, actually. It's close, really close, actually, but I'd probably say Bailey. Start Maddison or Bailey? Bailey. Do I need to wildcard? Edison, Trippier, Cancelo, Nico, Andreas, Martinelli, Gibbs, Jesus, Haaland, and Kane. Do I wildcard or not? Well, 10 players is fine, to be fair. You don't need to wildcard. Gibbs, White, I'm not a big fan of, but the rest... You know, basically, the way I see it, you know, you've got one of the best goalkeepers this week in Edison. You've got the 2 best defenders. Nico Williams will get you at least a point or 2 potentially. Martinelli, Jesus, Haaland, and Kane, you know, that's some of the best options you have. I would actually wildcard next week, Ditya, in your situation. For the game week and for Game Week 9, long term, which one is better combination? Saka, Martinelli, or Bowen, Saka, or Bowen, Martinelli? Long term, Bowen and Martinelli is the best one. But... yeah, you said for this game week and Game Week 9. Yeah, long term, if you're just saying that, it's Bowen Martinelli. Favorite deadline between Friday and Saturday? I mean, the good thing about Friday is that I don't need to wake up so early for Saturday, just in case I want to have a late movie night or something like that, or late night out. I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one. I like both, to be fair. I like waking up early as well, to be fair, from time to time. It's just on a Saturday. I don't know. It's a tough question. Maybe Friday, but not too sure. -8 for Isak? No. For me personally, I wouldn't do it, but you know, it's not the worst idea. Zuma or Sufal? Sufal. Thoughts on free hit this week? I wouldn't do it for most people. I mean, I don't know your team. You know, a free hit might be really good for you, but honestly, I'd rather wildcard. Best free hit, 8 million mid, excluding Saka. For this week, you know who I'm going to say, Kulusevski. Will Foden play 90 minutes? I don't think so. But I think he'll start and get maybe 70, 80 minutes. But of course, I could be wrong. Isak or Tony? Long term, I'd go for Tony. That's my answer. I meant to wildcard, but accidentally took up 36-point hit. Is my season over? Well, if you activate the wildcard now, you eliminate the hits. So your season isn't over if you still have the wildcard and you can activate it, Ralph. So no. Should I sell Diaz or Harrison? If Diaz, then who comes in? And if Harrison, then who? I'd rather sell Diaz, to be honest. And who would I sell him for? Probably the likes of Maddison and Bowen. Long term, I prefer Maddison. Start console Emerson this week. Probably Emerson. Kane, Haaland, Jesus, or Kane, Jesus, KDB. I mean, you have to have Haaland, so it has to be Kane, Haaland, Jesus. Yeah, Ralph, if you still have a wildcard available, then you literally just activate the wildcard button, make a transfer, activate the wildcard, and then you can make that transfer in reverse, and then you'll have your wildcard team, no hits, and that's it. You know, you're fine. So I don't think there's any issue there. Paqueta or Bailey? I prefer Bailey this week. Cucurella to Saliba and or James Perisic? I mean, for this week looks fine, but just bear in mind, Perisic might not start, you know? We just don't know. My gut feeling is that Perisic starts, but I just can't tell you that with conviction. If you see Paul O'Keefe put his predicted lineup, let me know, and I'll put it on screen as well. Which Man U players are best to get? Well, I wouldn't consider them right now because they blank anyway. The best ones are Dalot in defence and probably Rashford in midfield, but even then, I'm not a big fan of their assets. Ralph, I literally just said, so you just make a transfer, go to the transfer section, make one transfer, doesn't matter what the transfer is, just remember who your original player was. So, for example, do Walter Iverson in goal. And then, you know, once you make that transfer, you'll have the option to wildcard, then press the wildcard button and confirm it, and then reverse the transfer, and then bring back the player you originally had, and that's it. You know, you'll have your wildcard active. Isak or Tony? Like I said already, mate, I'd go for Tony. This week, Isak is my preference, but I'm looking long-term, and Tony's my favourite. So it just depends on when you're wildcarding. I had to use wildcard and hit because I picked 2 Arsenal players that were injured. It hasn't been my year so far. I mean, look, a lot of us have had a poor start to the season, myself included, but you can still turn things around. There's a long way to go. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it. Hi Dylan, how about for this game week, which one is better combination? For this week only, I'd still say Saka Martinelli, actually. I think I'd rather go for Saka than Bowen. Is Ward-Prowse a decent replacement for Rodrigo? He's not bad, to be fair, but he's not my favourite. I'd rather go somewhere else. Tough week for me, only 7 starters, no wildcards, so I need to take at least a -8 or a -12. You don't need to get to 11, though. You can just get to 9 or 10 with a hit or something, and that's it. I'd rate Longstaff as a bench option. Really, I just would rather have Andreas Pereira and Bailey, so I don't really rate him as an option. My team is Pope, James, Arnold, Trippier, Diaz, Cancelo, Salah, Rashford, Andreas, Haaland, Jesus. 2 unplayable 4.4s, free hit. That doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Obviously, you know, got a few blanks in there like Rashford. I wouldn't free hit. I don't really see myself free hitting that team. If anything, you can wildcard Toby if you have it. Richarlison punt this game week and Tony next week. Doesn't look too bad to me, but I wouldn't go for Richarlison. Not that convinced by him as an FPL option. I mixed asset and option. 8 million mid, Andreas or Bailey. Out of those two, I'd go for Bailey this week. 8 million midfielder, I would say Saka or Kulusevski. Foden, Saka or Bowen. Saka this week, long-term Bowen. Zaha or Bowen on my wildcard. I mean, Bowen plays this week, but I actually prefer Zaha long-term. Mitrovic or Isak, I'd go for Mitrovic, to be fair. Do you think Romero starts? Yes, I do. Should I postpone my wildcard if the Game Week 9 fixtures are postponed? I'm not sure, because the wildcard could also help you navigate the blanks as well, so I just don't know. I don't know your team, so it's hard for me to answer that. Paqueta, Almiron or Bailey? Bailey. I think Mitrovic and Haaland were good picks for my 2 free transfers. Well, they definitely are. They're 2 of the best options this week for the captaincy. Yeah, Craig, like I said, Isak this week. No, sorry. No, I thought it was the Tony one. I'd go for Mitrovic still. This week, long-term, Mitrovic is my preference. KDB and Mitrovic or Foden and Kane? KDB and Mitrovic. Hi mate, thoughts on Solanke, third forward from Game Week 12. I mean, he's got great fixtures to be fair, but I still think it's worth paying extra for Tony and Mitrovic. Do you lose your free hit if you wildcard? Like I said already, mate, you don't lose anything, so no need to worry. If you mean by hits as in points loss from hits, then yes, you do lose them. You eliminate them and you gain it, if anything. In terms of the free hit chip, no, you don't lose it. KDB or Foden? KDB. Sell Neto for -8. For who, though? That's the question. So now my 36-point hit will give back my points. Basically, you will never lose the hit. The hits happen after the deadline. But if you wildcard now, you will not have any point loss. So you might as well play the wildcard. Will Cresswell play? I believe so. But it could be as a left centre-back and then Emerson plays as the left wing-back. I have 2 free transfers. Should I wildcard or use my transfers? I mean, I don't know what your situation is, how many players you have available this week, what your plans are in the future. The way I'd kind of summarize for most people is if you can't get to 10 or 11 without taking massive hits, you're basically down to 7 or below, then you could wildcard this week. Otherwise, stick it for next week where you have more information, you've got the international break, and you could also gain some prices. If I can sneak Son in my wildcard and need a 4.4 million in Longstaff is a waste of money. I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend Son because he might not even start this week. He's in awful form. And I think there are better options, especially in the premium bracket. So it's completely up to you. That's not too bad, but I honestly would just rather go for another option. Even Sterling, I know he's blanking this week, but just talking about long term, and then going for Andreas or Bailey as an option for this week, then long stuff. Is Watkins worth a punt? I'm pretty sure he's a doubt, actually, right now. He's an injury doubt, and I wouldn't go for him anyway. I don't have a wild card thinking of doing Salah to Son to field 9 players. That's fair enough. There's also De Bruyne. It's completely up to you. I would probably look to take a -4 or something like that, Toby, and get to 9. Yeah, I think 9 players is fine for this week. KDB in for Salah for a -4. I'd go ahead with it, Kai. I'm not sure about Zinchenko. He's just there in case. Yeah, he might not even start. And actually, I think Arsenal won't risk him. He hasn't been called up for Ukraine. Sell Trent or Cucurella. I'd rather sell Cucurella. Long term, Trent is my preference if you can afford to keep him. Sufal or Zuma, like I said earlier, I'd go for Sufal. Why is Tony better than Kane long term? Because of the structure, really. I think Kane will score more points. He's got maybe not better fixtures. It's kind of mixed bag for both of them, although Tony has better fixtures. I think Tony is better in terms of structure. You know, you'd rather have Tony instead of Kane than have maybe, for example, a 7 million midfielder instead of De Bruyne, unless you're talking about Zaha potentially. And it's much easier to go from De Bruyne to Salah in Game Week 12, and it all makes sense with the plans you have potentially in the future compared to having Harry Kane and then potentially having to take a -4 hit if you want Salah back in. So it's completely down to you. I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's just what structure you prefer. And for me, I'd rather have 1 premium midfielder and 1 premium attacker. Is Bailey a good choice for this week? Yes, I think he is. When are you going to wildcard or free hit? Free hit, no. Probably much later in the season. Maybe wildcard next week. Do you lose your free transfers if you wildcard? You only have 1 free transfer after playing the wildcard. Best midfielder for 6.2 million. I mean, who are we looking at, really? I'll have a check just to kind of give myself a recap, but I don't think there's much in there. 6.2 million. Who plays this week? We're kind of scraping down the barrel here, I won't lie to you. I mean, you could consider someone from the West Ham Everton game, but I personally wouldn't. Maybe Almiron as a 1-week punt, but honestly, I can't bring myself to recommend these options. No. Yeah, I'm just not really feeling it. Emerson a guaranteed starter? No, not a guaranteed starter, but I think he will this week. KDB or Son just for this week? Still KDB. I'm not sure if Son starts. Have 2 transfers. Would Robertson and Archer out for Share and Mitrovic in be good for this week? Plan to wildcard 9, ideally. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. I would do that, was. Answer that question, say already, is basically down to structure. That's why I think Tony's a better option. Why KDB, Isak, etc. over Kane Foden? Because I just think it's a better duo. You know, I look at Foden and I'd rather have a kind of 7 million forward like Isak, who you can then move on to Tony or Mitrovic, and have Kevin De Bruyne, you can move on to Salah in the weeks to come. I just prefer that duo. I think he'll score more points. It's completely up to you, but I'd go for that duo. I'd go for KDB on the wild card. Best 8 million midfielder. Long term, I would say Maddison. Maddison and Zaha around that price, 7 to 8 million are my favourites. For this week, it's a different answer. You already know. Is Dalot a good shout? Obviously, he's blanking this week, and United aren't great defensively. And I think in terms of, I think they will struggle when they face teams that sit back. But yeah, he's a decent shout at that price for sure. Just not someone to bring in this week. Is it a good idea to have Emerson Royal on the wild card? I think he might be benched this week actually with his disaster class against Sporting, so I'm not sure. Start or bench Perisic this week? I'd start him if I had him, but I'm not sure if he does start. My gut feeling is that he will. Nico or Sufal or Emerson? Sufal, if you can afford it. Is a good idea? Yeah, just answer that. 1 week punt on Son too risky? I think so. Normally I'd say yes because I think Son's a great FPL option, but he isn't at the moment. Your thoughts on Gordon as a cheap midfielder? I'd rather go to Andreas or Bailey and save the extra million and spend it elsewhere. Will Kane be a good differential captain this game week? I think so. He's a great captaincy option this week. I think, you know his record against Leicester. It's incredible. It's his favourite opponent. They're the worst team in the league. It's a good option. What are your thoughts on Morgan Gibbs-White? Like I said earlier, for me, Andres Pereira and Bailey are my favourite premium budget midfielders. I don't think I'd go for him. Mitrovic or Isak? Mitrovic all day long. 1 week punt on Son to risky? Yep, I think so. Trippier and Kulusevski for Duncan Diaz? Yep, I like it. I'd go ahead with it. What do you think for Bowen to get into the team? I activate the wild card. He's a good option long term with the fixtures. I think he could translate into form. Is Trent a must still? No. He's got a blank this week. Then he's got the likes of Brighton, Arsenal and Liverpool. No, he's not a must. You can always bring him back in later on, but he's not a must. Definitely not. Let me see if I can get the Paul O'Keefe predicted lineup. I don't think we've got it yet. We'll probably get it in the next half an hour or so. He did say between 5 and 6. Don't, take it as gospel. It's just, predictions. They tend to be right, but he can get some things wrong as well. Thank you, Cameron. Yeah, I think Perisic starts too, since next week is international break. If it wasn't for that, I don't think he starts. -4 for Salah to KDB, Kulusevski and Grima to Isak. Mitrovic. Yep, I would go for KDB and Mitrovic personally. Do you think Almiron's a good shout? Around his price is a decent shout, but I still prefer Bailey and Andreas, to be honest. Is it true there's 3 wildcards this year? Technically, there's 2 wildcards, but we get unlimited transfers heading into the World Cup in Game Week 17, I believe it is. So, in essence, we do have 3 wildcards, and that's why a lot of us have played the wildcard early this season. Ironically for me, this is probably the latest I've ever used it. I always use it around Game Week 5 or something, Game Week 5 to 7. So this will be the latest I've used it, even if I play it now, but I probably will be using it next week. Salah plus Jesus to Haaland and Bowen thoughts. Looks good to me, but Bowen isn't my favourite option, really. I do prefer Maddison long term, same with Zaha, and for this week, Kulusevski and Saka are my preferences. Zinchenko to Trippier from -4. I mean, it's not ideal, but it is worth it. If you can, maybe look to get rid of a player who blanks this week instead, because Zinchenko will be fully fit and available after the international break, unless Arsenal medical staff do their usual stuff. Isak or Jesus? For this week, I think Isak, yeah. Is Son a good pick for this week? No, not for me, because I don't know if he even starts. I can't say that with conviction. KDB differential captaincy shout? Yeah, definitely. He scored 4 goals against Wolves last season. I'm going for Haaland, but he's a good option. Thank you, Karaki, for the shout-out. Bowen or Foden? Going to get Zaha in for them in Game Week 10? Good question. I think I'd rather go for Bowen, but it's really close. Do you know if there will be price changes during the wildcard? They will be. There will be. 1 second, just dealing with spammers. 1 second. Thank you, Lager. 1 second. Yeah, thank you. Is Bowen taking pens confirmed? It's not completely confirmed, but he did take a penalty and scored it. It was an emphatic penalty in the Europa Conference League when the likes of Rice, Paqueta, etc. all on the pitch, so it looks pretty positive. Double trust defense just to concede 4 goals by them. Oh yeah, no, I talked about double trust defense all season as being poor, but I thought Cucurella and James's attacking threat could make up for it. Hasn't really paid off so far. But I've always said, oh jeez, voice crack. I've always said it. I went against my own advice and I pay the price, but there you go. Perisic and Rashford or Maddison and a 4.5 million defender. I mean, long-term, Perisic and Rashford looks more convincing, but yeah, I mean, you've got to think about this week as well. And obviously, Rashford blanks this week. Perisic might not even start. So it's difficult. If you're looking at this week, go for the second one. Play the free hit chip if you like. More than half your players not playing. Yeah, although my preference, if you have the wildcard, is to just wildcard. And you're kind of settled for the long term. Ideally, I'm going to wildcard in Game Week 9 and have 3 Liverpool players and 2 Chelsea defenders, Gross and also Ward Sanchez and 2 free transfers. That's fair enough. I think on a wildcard in Game Week 9, I'm also considering getting Trent in, or at least keeping him, should I say, and then do the kind of Salah, Kevin De Bruyne switcheroo later on. So yeah, that's something I'm also considering as well. Should I use the wildcard chip now? Because 3-4 players isn't playing today. But is it 3-4 players of your overall squad, so you're down to 11-12, or is it, I'm guessing it's your starting 11 and you're down to, 7 or 8. In that case, I would, if with a free transfer or 2 you can get to 10 or something or 9, then I would just save it for another week. Otherwise, that's fine, mate. Just play the wildcard now and it's completely fine. I don't think there's a huge difference between wildcarding now and Game Week 9, although I am slightly preferring and leaning towards Game Week 9 wildcard for my team anyway. Obviously, your team situation is different. So yeah, if you've got any more questions, be sure to let me know. Yeah, I think my chat just froze, actually. I'm not sure why. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, my chat froze. I was actually, for a second, waiting for new comments, so apologies for that. Antonio Jesus for this week. Jesus. Saka or Bailey for 2-week punt. Saka. Who'd you replace Gross with? I mean, I'm not a big fan of most of the options around that price, so it would be Martinelli or Odegaard, really. So yeah. Is Bailey more nailed, or do you think Stevie G will rotate him? Well, according to Sam Martin, Bailey will start today. I don't think he's nailed, but I think he starts today. I don't know if I want to take out Ward this week with other players not even having a game. Yeah, but I don't think Ward even gets points, you know. I think he struggles to even get 1 or 2 points. So that's why I made a goalkeeper transfer myself. It's completely up to you, I understand it. Worth starting Dini. Kulusevski or Bowen for this game week? Kulusevski. Yeah, I'm probably wildcarding next week. Is Perisic not starting? There's no confirmation at all. We don't know for sure. Finally own Haaland after 7 game weeks. You didn't have Haaland for that long, Jesus. I talked about having him, you know, from the beginning. I went for Kane in Game Week 1. I immediately regretted it. And as soon as I saw Haaland scored 2 goals against West Ham, I brought him in. Would you take a hit to get Isaac in for Jesus? No chance. No, not for me. Salah, Archer, Trent, KDB, Isak, Trippier for -4 would have 11 players starting. Ward, lol. I mean, that doesn't look too bad, to be fair, yet. That looks good. I think Sterling and Mount can be noticed. Broya as well. Well, they could be good options. Yeah, Mount got an assist the other day. I think Sterling will be the main one I'd look at, and Reece James at the back. But Chelsea still don't convince me. I think they still are, I don't know, they're too inconsistent and maybe a bit weak mentally. I don't know how to describe it. You know, even against Salzburg, they should have kept a clean sheet and they didn't. Good defender other than Newcastle. This week it'd be City, so you could double up with Diaz and Cancelo. I don't like Luka Dean, although he has a good fixture on paper. So it's completely up to you, but I'm not a big fan of most of the defenders this week. You could also consider Saliba, but I don't expect an Arsenal clean sheet. Isak or Mitrovic from -8 or stay with Tony? Just stay with Tony, mate, because he's got Bournemouth next week, you know, and he's a great long-term option. Probably better than Isak. Well, for me, he's better, so I wouldn't do it for -8. Maddison or Bowen for the starting 11? For this week, Bowen. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate it. And like Jared says, we are on the road to 15,000 subscribers. We are pretty close to there. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes and let's get closer to 15,000. I think we got, around 50 subscribers today. So thank you very much. We've made more progress. Let's try to get as close to 15,000 as possible. Let's keep on going. Mount playing good in UCL. Well, he did in matchday 2. Not that much in matchday 1. Although I didn't watch the full game, so I could be wrong. Paqueta's a future asset. I mean, he's got the fixtures, but I do prefer Bowen from West Ham, and I don't think Paqueta is necessarily the most offensive option. Even for Brazil, where he's got a decent goal-scoring record, it's nothing groundbreaking. Does Archer start? I don't think so. I think it's Ings. Is Bailey more nailed? Yeah, we answered that already. Thoughts on having both Haaland and Kane? There's nothing wrong with it, especially this week, but long-term, I prefer having a structure of one premium midfielder and attacker. How do you rate Brentford's fixtures? I think they're mixed. They're pretty decent, and I think Tony just hauls anyway in some of them. So that's why I like Tony long term, but I wouldn't go for their defenders, no chance, or Raya. Bowen or Saint-Maximin? If Saint-Maximin is fit and starts, I prefer him actually, but I think Bowen's a safer pick. Captain Kane or Haaland? I'd be tempted by Kane, that's all I can say. I don't know if I would actually bring myself to do it, because Haaland for me has the highest ceiling in general, but Leicester's such a good fixture. Really good 5.5 million asset. There isn't for me. There isn't a single 5.5 million asset that's really good. For this week, Bailey and Andres look good, but I wouldn't say they're really good. I'm not sure if I'm buying Perisic yet. If I somehow get kind of like confirmation that he's going to start or something, then maybe I will. Otherwise, I'm very, very apprehensive. I'm not sure if I'm watching today's games, to be honest. I'm not that interested. Maybe Forest against Fulham just to see Mitrovic get some goals, but I'm not sure about that. Thank you, Jay, for the shout out. Going for Newcastle defence as City is full. That's fair enough. For 1 week, it looks good. I wouldn't triple up on Newcastle defensively in the long term, though. West Ham or Newcastle clean sheet? Newcastle. What do you think is the best replacement for Cucurella this week? Trippier, if you already got him, which I'm guessing you do, then maybe Fabian Schär, and you can double or triple up on Newcastle defence. I'm not a big fan of the rest, though. Gary, we did talk about Jesus. Well, I didn't talk about effective ownership, but I talked about his overall ownership, and I would keep him anyway, just because I think he has a good chance of returns against Brentford. The time to get rid of him and to get ahead of the curve is Game Week 9. Kane or Tony in Wildcard Game Week 8? Tony for me, but it's completely up to you. You can go for 2 premium forwards, but I would rather have the structure of 1 premium midfielder and attacker. How about getting Maddison in? Yes, but on the Game Week 9 Wildcard, not right now. I don't really expect too many returns, despite how good he is. Maddison, Bailey, Andreas, start 2. I would start Bailey, and then it's between the other 2. And look, normally I'd say Maddison, but the fixture's really tough. I'd probably go for Andreas. Best on the 7 million midfielder, Martinelli. Then you're looking at Odegaard potentially. Differentials this week. Good question. I think St. Maximin if he starts, but like we keep on saying, we just don't know if he will. As you can see, he's got a 50% chance of starting. It's all down to a late fitness test. I do like him if he is available, of course. Let me sort this out by ownership, and we can try to give you some differentials. All right, so in terms of the forwards, we are probably looking at Isak at 6.7. I thought his ownership would be high, actually. Yeah, Isak will be the top attacker. In terms of midfielders, you're mainly looking at the likes of Foden, maybe. Yeah, Foden, so Maximin. I mean, Maddison, but he does have a really tough fixture this week. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. So I wouldn't kind of scrape the barrel too much. And in terms of defenders, you're probably looking at Luka Dean, but honestly, don't do that to yourself. I wouldn't go for Luka Dean. I think Diaz looks pretty good, or a second City defender. That will be my kind of differential, or triple Newcastle defense with Fabian Schär. So those are kind of some differentials for this week. Goalkeeper, I just go for Pope anyway, so yeah, I wouldn't overcomplicate that. Thank you, Gary. Thoughts on Dean? I just don't trust Villa at all. I don't trust Luka Dean. I wouldn't go for him. My transfer plans, I've already made 2 transfers, so I think I'm going to stick with that. The possibility is getting Perisic in for Trent or James as part of a -4. That's really it. Thank you, Skilps. Thank you very much. Yeah, repeat. But Leicester's the worst team in the league. Well, yes, they are. They are. Still worth getting an Arsenal option, in your opinion? Buying them in right now is a bit weird, but I think the likes of Saka, Martinelli, and Saliba are good options. Jesus for this week, but long term, I think one's enough. Tony or Jesus? Long term is Tony for me. You're sleeping on Target. Well, I know you mentioned him before. Let's wait and see. I mean, he's another one, but I do prefer Schär, Trippier, and Pope. Best 1 week punt defender against Cancelo, Trippier. I mean, is this actually confirmed? Oh, God. 1 second. Anyway, let's try and answer this question first. So, best 1 week punt defender except for them, I'd say Schär. Schär or Ruben Diaz, something like that. Oh, God. This could push me to wildcard, I can't lie, if Cancelo is out. I know it sounds a bit weird, doesn't really make sense, but I can cover him with Ruben Diaz, for example, something like that, and then bring him back in. So let's see. I don't know if this is like fake. I know sometimes there's a lot of rumors or something, but I'll try to check for you lot very quickly. Cancelo. I don't see anything about Cancelo being injured for 4 weeks, so I think that might be a bit of a troll there. Yeah, I don't see anything. If you've got any links of a reliable source, then be sure to put it in the chat, but I think that's just a waste of time. Start Bailey or Odegaard? I'd start Bailey out of those two. Yeah, I don't know. I just can't find it. That's the thing. I'm going on Twitter right now, and I just can't see it. So yeah, bear with me for a second, but yeah, I don't know if it's just like a conspiracy for everyone to jinx us or to troll us. Why Schär suddenly a popular option again? I mean, really it comes down to the lack of defender options in Gameweek 8. That's really it. I mean, look, this is the thing. I'm checking Twitter right now and I don't see anything. I don't see any mentions whatsoever of Cancelo being injured. Sometimes, you know, rumors spread like wildfire, so I'm always kind of, you know, careful with that, and I don't, you know, it takes a lot for me to believe something. You know, I need to see a reliable source say it for me to actually, you know, give it any thought. I don't see anything on Twitter anyway. Dean or Fofana, who's a better option? Probably Fofana, long term. Remember, he does blank this week. Bailey or Gordon? Bailey. Best Trent replacement? I mean, apart from Cancelo and Trippier, and let's wait and see what happens with Cancelo, I would probably say it's tough. With players who play this week, I'm probably going to recommend a Newcastle City defender like Diaz, so I'd say Diaz, potentially. Yeah, it could be, Amir, it could be. That's why I'm not really paying attention to it. Start Bailey or Odegaard? Bailey. Did you wildcard? No, I haven't wildcarded. 1 week midfield pump, please. No price limit. I'd say Kulusevski. I just don't know if Son's going to start. I have more confidence in Kulusevski starting, and well, I could be wrong about that, but that's just the way I see it. So, yeah. Saka or Maddison on the wildcard? Maddison. If you're looking long term, Maddison will be the pick. Yeah, I don't know, Carrick. I think it's just the trolling. Got Dean. I'm a glutton for punishment. Yeah. I can't bring myself to do it. I've been burned by him so many times. Rate my wildcard team: Pope, Trippier, Cancelo, Emerson, De Bruyne, Saka, Martinelli, Maddison, Haaland, Mitrovic and Isak. Bench: Ward, Nico Williams, Andreas and James. Looks really good. If I were wildcarding this week, I think I'd have the exact same team. You know, bar maybe Bowen instead of Maddison for this week, and then you can make the switch in the weeks to come. But to be honest, that looks really good. I like it a lot. You could also consider the likes of Patterson instead of Nico Williams. Honestly, that looks fine, Stephen. If you check my wildcard team, it's identical to that. Thank you, Rock and Roll, for sorting that out. And 1 second, by the way. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. We are going to change this, actually, just so we can monitor the chat a little bit more. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes, and let's get close to well, maybe not 16,000 yet. Let's chill to 15,000 subscribers. So yeah, if you are a subscriber, you'll be able to comment on the chat, but just to kind of monitor the spamming and all of that, we are going to change this a little bit. So let me try to find the option. That'd be great if I could actually find the damn option. Where is it? Okay then. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, so there we go. All right, so yeah, keep on putting your questions in. We're going to try to get through everything. As always, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon. Probably Yu-Gi-Oh! I didn't actually watch that much Pokemon when I was a kid, which sounds crazy, I know. Best midfielder for Salah, De Bruyne. -4 Isak, KDB, Trippier. Thoughts? Yeah, looks fine to me. I just don't like Isak too much long term. De Bruyne, Isak, or Kane Bowen? De Bruyne and Isak. Thank you, Rock and Roll. I think Cancelo out for Emerson is good and it saves money and Emerson is fit, but does he play every single game? That's the thing. Zaha or Maddison long term, and Jesus or Isak this week. Long term, I'd say Zaha, but it's really close. And this week, Isak. KDB and Botman or Son and Trippier? KDB and Botman, probably, I'd say reluctantly, just because I'm not sure if Son starts. What to do with Gundogan? I'd probably look to sell, but it's kind of weird because he could start this week. You just never know with him, and if he starts, he's got a good chance of getting 8 to 10 points. So maybe keep him for now, and then look to sell him in the weeks to come. Maybe on a wildcard in Game Week 9. Welcome, Roy. Williams or Andreas? Andreas. Best placeholder for James in the wildcard, Diaz or Perisic? Diaz is the safer one. That's the thing. I'd be tempted to say Perisic, but I don't know if he starts, so it's really tough. I would say Perisic, but I do recognise it's risky. Andreas or Maddison? For this week, I'd probably say Andreas, but you know, not going to be too often that I'm going to say that. Welcome, Asif. Emerson over Nico Williams, yes, but I do think Nico Williams is a bit more nailed, despite the signing of Aurier, and let's wait and see. I could be completely wrong about that. Yeah, Williams just really has attacking threat, but Nottingham Forest defensively don't really fill me with confidence. Emerson and West Ham a little bit more so. They've got good underlying numbers. Perisic or Share? I have Trippier. I prefer Perisic, but once again, if you want something simple, something safe, Share is the one, but I'd go for Perisic. Best Newcastle defender outside of Trippier? I'd say Share, once again. I know some people mentioned Target earlier. Thank you, Mickey. Would you rather Saka or Foden on the wild card, switch to Zaha Game Week 10? I'd actually rather go for Saka. So your team: Henderson, Saliba, Cancelo, Trippier, Martinelli, Bowen, Buendia, KDB, Jesus, Mitrovic, Haaland, Sub, Creswell. I mean, it's a good team, and you don't necessarily need to change things for this week, but some concerns I have long term. Saliba has some poor fixtures and he blanks in Game Week 12, but the main one is Buendia. I just don't really see it. I know he's got good fixtures, but I don't like Buendia at all. The rest is completely fine. Although instead of Creswell, I'd rather have Emerson or Soufal. Andreas or Maddison? I answered that already. Yep. So you're not wildcarding this game week? No, I'm not. Unless something else happens and I'm going to be forced to wildcard. I'm probably going to wildcard in Game Week 9 during the international break. Dean or Fofana? Fofana blanks this week, but I'd rather go for him. I just don't trust Aston Villa or Luka Dean. De Bruyne, Perisic or Son Cancelo? De Bruyne and Perisic. Nunez or Haaland? Haaland all day long. Come on. Nunez is not even in the conversation. And he blanks this week. Isn't James blanking this week? Yes, he is. It's just I'm not that convinced about the defender options this week to take a -4. That's really it. When are you going to triple captain? There's no rush to really use it now. I'm looking at a double game week with Haaland, really. Best defender for Trent, apart from Cancelo and Trippier, you're looking at another Newcastle City defender. If not, maybe Soufal. I mean, there's not that many options. Which Emerson is everyone talking about? They're talking about Emerson from West Ham. Yeah, that confused me as well in the last few streams, but everyone's talking about Emerson Palmieri now. Yeah, they're talking about him. When they talk about Emerson Royal, they will say probably Royal. A Royale with cheese. Is Saint-Maximin an option? He is, but we don't know if he's going to be fit enough. You know, it's all down to a late fitness test. So, is Perisic a good option to buy? Yes, but he's also a risk, and you have to be, prepared for that. What's the most hits you take this week? Probably a -4, to be honest. I wouldn't look to take a -8 with the amount of blanks, with, also the low ceiling, which I think there will be this week. Almiron or Bailey? Bailey. Is Saint-Maximin playing? It's all down to a late fitness test. I can't tell you that. It's all down to, educated guesses, not even that. If I were to guess that, it's literally just me saying, I just don't know. Yeah. So, I don't know. Saka or Martinelli for this game week? Saka. Kulusevski or Maddison or Bowen? Kulusevski for this week, long-term Maddison. If Perisic doesn't start, you only lose 3 if you take the -4 hit. Worth the risk. Yes, it's worth the risk. I do agree with you. But I want to be a bit more convinced by him starting, So even if he's benched, I'll be like, oh, well, at least I took the risk and it didn't pay off. But if I don't really expect him to start, or I'm like really 50-50 on it, and then I take the -4 anyway and he doesn't start, I don't know. I just don't think it's the right thing. If Perisic... Oh, yeah, I just read that. Captain Haaland or Kane? I think they're both great options. There's arguments for both. I'd be tempted by Kane, though. I struggle to decide if I want to switch out one bench player, Luis Diaz, to replace and bench Andreas Bailey this week. I kind of like playing Martinelli, Bailey, KDB, and Andreas. Yeah, in that case, I'd probably keep him for now, but in the weeks to come, I'd probably look to sell. Maddison, Bowen, Kulusevski, or Gordon? Maddison long-term. For this game week, Kulusevski. Should I have a plan to get Salah back? I probably would, even not just Salah. If Son gets back into form, if you want Sterling, you want that kind of premium midfielder slot, in my opinion. I have a team of Pope, Perisic, Cancelo, Trippier, Martinelli, Andreas, Bowen, De Bruyne, Mitrovic, Haaland, Tony. 1.1 in the bank, and I'm playing a free hit. Any changes? On a free hit, I would consider Kulusevski. Wait, this is a free hit. If I was playing the free hit, I would also try to find a way to get Kane in up front. I don't think I'd go for Tony on a free hit this week. I'd rather go for Isak even. But long term, of course, I do like Tony. So that's something I would look to do. I'd actually downgrade Bowen potentially if that also enables you to get Harry Kane up front. And you can also consider Kulusevski. Will Bailey start tonight? According to Sam Martin, he will. So take that how you will. Replace Tony for Mitrovic? Yes, but to be honest, I do like Tony long-term, and if anything, I'd like to add Mitrovic to your forward line rather than replacing him with Tony. Salah, Sanchez, De Silva to Pope, De Bruyne, and who? I have Martinelli and Andreas. So as a midfielder, I'm not sure what your budget is, Royce, so it's kind of hard for me to say, but I would like, for example, the likes of Bowen, Maddison, etc. But if you need someone cheaper, then I just don't really know who to say because most of them are pretty poor. KDB or Foden for this game week? KDB. Emerson or Nico for this game week? Emerson. Kane and Foden or De Bruyne and Isak for a wild card? De Bruyne and Isak. Best fifth defender on the wild card. I have Cancelo, Trippier, Soufal, Reece James. Well, because you already have Soufal, I'd probably point you in the direction of Fofana, Patterson, or Nico Williams. Good defenders to buy long term. Reece James, Cancelo, Trippier. Not Trent right now, but he's someone to consider in Game Week 12 onwards. I think Soufal's a good long-term option. Then you've got a few others like Fabian Schär, etc. Robertson replacements. I mean, it's just the kind of same old thing. There's only 2 defenders I really trust this week, and then the rest you're looking at maybe Ruben Diaz if you are prepared to go there. If you wildcard, you prefer to take Iverson or Ward. I mean, Ward plays, so if it's not going to cost you, I just go for Ward. It's not that big of a deal, I think. Who starts for Newcastle, Burn or Schär? I think Schär, but look, I think there will be a bit of rotation between those two and Botman. Would Walker play? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Start Andreas or Bailey? I'd start Bailey. Mitrovic, Tony, Jesus. Need to pick 2 or 3. I mean, I'd start all 3 to be honest, but I'd go for Mitrovic and Jesus for this week. Thank you, Roy. This is a big game week for Jesus owners. Time to explode. Yeah, it's about time. He's got good underlying numbers. Only 1 big return this season. I have 11 players, but I want to use my 2 free transfers, Water Pope, Salah to Saint-Maximin, Archer to Mitrovic for a -4. That looks fine. Just bear in mind that Saint-Maximin might not start, and it's all down to a late fitness test. My team looks like this. It looks fine to me, mate, honestly. With those transfers in mind, with the -4, looks completely good to me. you're in good condition for this week. Obviously, there's a few things like some X-Man, he might not start. Same with Perisic, but it looks good. Cheers, replace Tony and Bowen with Kane and Bailey. Good luck with that, Milner. I think long-term, I would prefer Tony and Bowen, but for this week, Kane and Bailey does look better, of course. De Bruyne gets rotated. There is the possibility, of course, but same with Heung-min Son. Do you know why I can still make transfers even though it's past the 5:30 deadline? The deadline's at 6:30. It's not at 5:30. So we've got another hour left. Yeah, I think Kulusevski was at 96% to start. My bench really cannot cover anyone. I'd be surprised if Kulusevski was benched. He deserves to start. Emerson or Soufal long-term. If it's someone you want to start most weeks, then I go for Soufal because he's a bit more nailed and he has more attacking threat. Which one of these would you bench? Maddison, Bailey, or Andreas? Probably Maddison, reluctantly. Is a -8 or 12 fine or wildcard? I'd wildcard, to be fair. I wouldn't want to take big hits like that in a week like this. Kulusevski or Maddison if already have Kane. For this week, Kulusevski. It's as simple as that. Long-term, Maddison's my preference. Share, Soufal, Dean, or anyone. Probably Soufal long-term, and for this week, Share. That's just the way I'd say it. I just wouldn't touch Dean. Why are people talking about Emerson? He has barely played this season. Well, he's been playing recently, that's the thing. If we check his minutes recently, and he's been playing in the Conference League as well, by the way, he has been getting the start. So if you check here, he started the last game against Chelsea. He started against Villa, but then came off, I think. But yeah, I mean, with Emerson, he's basically started the vast majority of games since he's signed for the club. But yeah, I wouldn't really... He's just a 4 million defender. You have to be very realistic with your expectations. So that's why I keep on saying to people, you know, if you want someone on the bench, whatever, fair enough, go for Emerson. But I would rather go for Soufal for a little bit more. And actually, if we go back to my wildcard team, my provisional wildcard team for Game Week 9, I am considering someone like Soufal instead of going for, you know, the likes of Emerson or someone like that. And also, I might go for Patterson instead of Nico Williams. That's something I need to think about. But yeah, that's just the way I look at it. Should I go for Fofana even though I have James? I mean, look, I'm not a big fan of Chelsea defence. I don't like doubling up on them. I shouldn't have gone for Cucurella, but I did because of the fixtures and his attacking threat. So yeah, Fofana's only 4.4 million, but I'm not a big fan of double up in Chelsea defence, in my opinion. Thank you, Phillips Jr. Kane or Haaland captain? They're both great. You can't go wrong. Take your pick, but I would be tempted by Kane. Start Emerson or Nico? I'd start Emerson this week. Also, would you captain Kane if you had him? I believe I would. I'm not 100% on that, but I believe I would. Thoughts on 1 week punt Almiron? At that price and below, I mean, it's not the worst, but I do prefer Bailey and Andreas, to be fair. Best Southampton defender? Probably Walker-Peters. I mean, I just don't like them. I don't have enough team value to have Bowen, Maddison, and Foden. Which midfielder should I get under 6.8 million on a wild card? I mean, I wouldn't go for double Arsenal midfield, so it really is grim. You know, there's not many options I would recommend to you. I like Zaha a lot as well, who does blank this week, but honestly, I just don't know. Maybe Bailey or Andreas. Dean will trap so many this week. Yeah, imagine the 1 week that, you know, people like myself like, yeah, you know what, he's a trap, and then he ends up getting a 12-pointer. I mean, he's such a weird player, but I wouldn't go for him. Planning to keep Trent on your wildcard next week? At the moment, no, but I am open-minded because I do like Trent long-term, and I probably would want him back from Game Week 12 onwards. Soufal or Fofana? Right now, I prefer Soufal, but if you have no Chelsea coverage whatsoever in defence, I would go for Fofana because I think Chelsea will keep more clean sheets. Mitrovic or Jesus? Mitrovic. Gordon and Dewsbury in my team, what do you think? I mean, Dewsbury Hall is a good player, but not a good FPL asset, especially with how Leicester are playing. Gordon's been good so far, but I don't like him. Honestly, I'd just rather downgrade both of them to Bailey and Andreas Pereira. Will Kulusevski and 4 now start? I believe so, especially in the case of Kulusevski. Thoughts on Gordon? Like I just talked about with JML, you know, he's been good so far this season, but I don't think he's worth the extra million or so over Bailey and Andreas. Soufal, Patterson or Fofana and Emerson? Good question. Probably Soufal and Patterson if you already have James and you've got a good defence overall. Anthony, yeah, that's a good wildcard team. I mean, there's not much that's kind of different. You've gone for Patterson instead of the kind of typical Nico Williams, I guess. I mean, that's completely fine, honestly. I don't really see anything that I would change necessarily. Looks good. The only thing is that your midfield, I mean, it's not even bad, actually. You got KDB, Martinelli, and Zaha, and then you got Bailey and Andres who can come in from time to time. Yeah, that looks good. Bowen or Foden if I go Kane draft and wildcard? I'd just rather have Bowen anyway. Foden isn't going to start every single game, in my opinion. I am on Wildcard. Once again, it's identical to the team that we talked about above, and I wouldn't change too much, apart from... This is the thing, Madison's a good long-term pick, so I would have him anyway, that's fine. Isak is someone I would look to move on in the weeks to come, but honestly, that's a good wildcard team. I wouldn't change much. If I were wildcarding this week, I'd do something very similar. If people made transfers in Game Week 7, would they still have the players they got in then? Yes, they would, unless they played a free or something, something weird like that. But yeah, they would still have the transfers. Let's go with Trent for Perisic or Archer for Mitrovic. Archer to Mitrovic is much better. I'd do that. Good midfielders for this week. De Bruyne, Kulusevski, Saka, maybe Bowen, but the first three more so than not. Barnes or Gray? Barnes is my preference. Emerson, Nico, or Patterson for Game Week 8 and 12. That's a good point. Game Week 12 is something else we need to think about. And if we take a look at the fixture ticker, Game Week 12, so if we compare these lots, so West Ham are playing Liverpool. Ouch. Then you look at the likes of Everton. Who do they play? Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of a difficult one. They're facing Newcastle, and then you look at Nico Williams facing Brighton, isn't it? So, yeah. It's tough. I don't think any of them have a great fixture per se. I think I'd still go for Nico Williams or Patterson potentially. It's really close. They're 4 million defenders, you know, there's not much to think about there. But Soufal is my preference over the others, as I talked about before. Yeah, why do I prefer Soufal? Because he's more nailed. I don't think Emerson will start every single game. You know, Creswell's back now from injury. Soufal is the first choice right back, and he's also got a bit of attacking threat, although not that much. But I think he's just worth the extra 0.3. No, I'm not wildcarding. Zuma or Burn for Game Week 8? Probably Burn, but I'm not sure if he starts. Ahmed, like I said already, I'd go for Mitrovic. It's very simple. Thoughts on having Soufal and Justin as cheap defender options? Soufal I like. I don't like Justin. I just don't trust Leicester at all. So Soufal will be my preference. Perisic or Share for Game Week 8? Perisic, but that's with the assumption that he starts, and I can't guarantee you that. Wildcard Kulusevski in this week, then transfer out for Madison next game week. That looks fine. As long as the rest of your squad is really solid, and look, things can happen during the international break, so you could be in a predicament, but that looks fine. Any suggestions? Honestly, that looks great. Apart from Gordon, I just can't bring myself to recommend him. I don't like Everton offensively, and I think I'd rather go for Andreas and Bailey. Why is Saka so popular? Because he's got a good fixture this week. And he's also got that Leeds fixture in Game Week 11, I believe. And he's probably one of the best 8 million midfielders in the game still. Saka or Bowen? I'd probably go for Bowen, just for the long term. Isak plus KDB or Kane and Maddison for 3 to 6 weeks? For 3 to 6 weeks, then I would go for Kane and Maddison. Bench Bailey or Andreas? I'd bench Andreas, but that's not really a big fan of that. Saka, Maddison, Bailey for Buendia. I'd go for Maddison. Any defender, and that's the thing. There's no one. Diaz maybe, or another Newcastle defender like Cher, but I just don't like the rest. I can't bring myself to recommend them. All right, so let's go through these other questions as well. Nunez switched to Isak long term. Long term, I'd say Tony and Mitrovic, and Mitrovic is that one you have to have for me. Maddison or Andreas on the bench. I would personally bench Maddison this week, but it does seem weird. Best forward around 6 to 6.5 million. Probably Solanke. For a free hit, I can get either Bowen, Bailey, or Andreas. I already have Mitrovic. I would go for Bailey from those lot. Kulusevski, Maddison, or Son Andreas? I'd go for Kulusevski and Maddison. What defender would you choose other than Soufal at 4.4 or less? Fofana, but he obviously doesn't play this week. Who should I get instead of Gross? I mean, there's not many around his price. Martinelli, Odegaard maybe. Say Maximan, but he's a big risk. No, Bailey's not that nailed, but apparently he's going to start today according to Sam Martin. That's why I'm a bit more keen on him today. What about Bella Kotchap from Southampton or Soufal from West Ham? Soufal, yes. For a second, I thought you were trying to catch me out with the Southampton name. From Southampton, I wouldn't really consider anyone apart from... I mean, there's Sekou Mara in the midfield. And there's also the out-of-position midfielder that the name escapes me right now. But I think it will come back to me. But yeah, I wouldn't really trust Southampton assets. You think Kane or De Bruyne for second premium? I would rather go for De Bruyne because of the structure, but they're both fine. There's nothing wrong with going for Kane. Transfer Saint-Maximin in. Don't think he's even going to start. Yeah, it's all down to a late fitness test. Thoughts on having De Bruyne? I mean, I've got him in right now as part of, you know, 1 or 2 transfers. I think it's a good transfer. I mean, he's one of the best premiums to have this week, apart from maybe Kane and Haaland. But, yeah, I mean, look, it's a difficult one. The reason why I didn't go for Kane, when I'm probably going to wildcard in Game Week 9 anyway, is because I had to get rid of someone like Jesus or Mitrovic or Haaland this week, and I just don't think it was worth it. What do you think of Mitrovic captain as a differential? I think he's probably in my top 3 captains this week, so it looks really good, but I would rather captain the likes of Kane and Haaland. Bench Patterson or Andreas? I'd bench Patterson. Botman or Cher? I'd go for Cher. Thank you, Mickey. I appreciate it. Son or Kulusevski this week only. Kulusevski. Emerson, Nico, or Patterson for Game Weeks 8 and 12. Yeah, like I said already, Random Junkie, I probably would go for Nico Williams, but it's really close, and it's something I'm going to have to think about over the international break. But with Game Week 8 in mind as well, yeah, it has to be between Nico and Patterson. Bruyne gets rotated. You've asked me this many times before, and I answered already. For me, there's a possibility, but I think he starts. Isak or Mitrovic? Mitrovic. Is Ward worth the extra 0.1 million over Iverson? It's literally just 0.1 million. Ward is the main goalkeeper. Rodgers seems to show a lot of faith in him, so I'd go for him if you can. It doesn't really matter. You're probably never going to want to start him anyway. It's just for the last chance, you know, if needs must, you have a 4 million goalkeeper that starts and just go for Ward and that's it. What do you think of Kulusevski for this week? Yeah, like I said before, that's fine. That's completely fine. Do I keep Ward and Meslier or should I get a goalkeeper? I'd probably get a goalkeeper and I'd go for Pope. Which players from the current team are you going to surely transfer out on your wildcard in Game Week 9? Cucurella, I think. Probably Jesus. Bailey, I think. And then there's a few others like Gross. And maybe Trent as well. So those are the ones mainly. Is Bailey nailed? No, he's not nailed. Yeah, Paul O'Keefe tweet. Thank you, Karaki. I appreciate it. I'm going to go for it now. Let's see what he has. Obviously, take with a pinch of salt. He's not going to get everything right. All right, so let me bring it up on screen so you can also see it. So his predicted lineup is Son to be benched, which is what he also predicted for the Sporting Lisbon game. So Lloris in goal, Lenglet, Dyer, Romero, Perisic, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Emerson, Richarlison, Kane, and Kulusevski. So Emerson starting again would be quite mad, wouldn't it? Because you've got Jet Spence, you've got also Doherty, and you could also play Perisic on the right-hand side and play Sessegnon. But this is the thing. If Son starts at the weekend, I would be very concerned about Perisic starting because Perisic and Son do not have a good connection right now. Perisic and Richarlison seem to be, on the same wavelength, more so anyway than the other duo. And if anything, Son does better and thrives when playing with Sessegnon. So it's a bit of an awkward one. And look, these partnerships can develop over time. And ideally, Spurs want Perisic and Son, forming that connection because they are so important to them. But yeah, I mean, look, I could actually see this being the starting 11. I agree with the front three. I have no qualms about that. I'm just not too sure about the wing-back situation. Why would Conte continue to go for Emerson when, you've got a game just before the international break where you can maybe try something different? Go for Jed Spence, go for Emerson, not Emerson, sorry. You can go for Doherty. So, that would be a bit kind of, I'm unsure about that, the Emerson factor. But the rest, I think is completely spot on, to be fair. Perisic is a risk, no matter what. I'm not wildcarding this week, and my wildcard team is pretty much what I talked about in the best wildcard team video, so there's nothing really to change on that front. I showed my wildcard team for Game Week 9 potentially, but that could change anyway. I'll probably try to make a video for the weekend or Monday for the wildcard team in Game Week 9, so you will see my plans then. How much money have you got in the bank? That's a good question, and something that I need to know off the top of my head. So basically, I've got 0.5 in the bank. Wait, is that right? No, that's not my team. I'll just check it for you now. So let's go back to FPL website. So my squad value is 101.6. I can't speak English today. So I've got 0.2 million in the bank. That's basically it. And that's why, if I want to get Perisic, it has to be James or Trent making way. So I'm going to put a poll out. It's a very simple question. So it's Perisic in for a -4 hit, and then it's completely up to you. And just let me know your thoughts. I know some people will be in a similar predicament. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the predicted lineups have Perisic in it. All right, so I've put the poll out. Be sure to vote. Tony or Isak? For this week, Isak, long-term Tony. Did Son start midweek? Yes, he did. He played 72 minutes and he was awful. He was anonymous. Thoughts on Kane captain? I think he's arguably the best captaincy option this week. Mitrovic for captain this week? Probably one of the best differential options, but I would still go for Haaland or Kane, but that's my personal opinion. Conte said that Doherty will be an option for rotation after the international break. Yeah, I know, but just why not start him now? That's the thing. Emerson was awful, absolutely awful against Sporting Lisbon. De Bruyne or Son? I'd still go for De Bruyne. I don't think Son starts, or at least I've got the doubt in my mind. If you had to ask me, I think I agree with Paul O'Keefe. I think we'll be that front three, finally. Who should I sacrifice between Nick Pope and Gabriel Jesus? Sacrifice? I'm not sure what that is for. I'd rather sacrifice Jesus than Pope, but I would try to have both of them this week. What do we do without FPL UCL for 2 whole weeks? Relax. You know, there's more things to football and FPL and UCL fantasy. There will be content out in the meantime, but yeah, it's just it's a good time to discharge. You know, we've got such a busy period in October and November, and potentially, you know, with the World Cup as well. So yeah, it's good to discharge, I think. What do you think of captaining De Bruyne over Haaland? It's not a bad shout. He scored 4 goals against Wolves last season, but I still don't see myself doing that. I think Haaland is the go-to. Should I captain Isak against Bournemouth or Haaland against Wolves? I'd go for Haaland, but it's up to you. Tony or Jesus to Isaac? Tony this week, but honestly, long term, you'd rather have Tony than Jesus. So if you're not wildcarding next week, Bob, I would actually rather get rid of Tony this week. Oh, wait, did I say that right? If you're not wildcarding next week, then yeah, I'd rather get rid of Jesus. No, I haven't wildcarded. How confident are you in Kulusevski starting? I'm 70% confident. You know, I can't give you an exact figure, but roughly around that. Solanke or Mbumo? Solanke, but not a big fan of either. After watching the top 6 teams after 6 game weeks, who do you think will get into the top 4 now? It's too early to tell, but I think it will be City, easy champions. I think they're by far the best team. I think Liverpool will still finish in the top 4. And the other 2 teams will be Spurs and Arsenal. I think Spurs finish 2nd or 3rd. Arsenal finish 3rd or 4th. It just depends on how Liverpool bounce back and the injuries. That's my personal opinion. I think Chelsea 5th, United 6th. Or even Newcastle could finish 6th even. I wouldn't put that past them. Is Lenglet a good long-term hold in draft FPL? I don't think so, because he's not a guaranteed starter. You know, he's not going to start every single week, so not for me. Kulusevski from -4? I wouldn't take a hit for that, I think. Gross to Bernardo or Salah to KDB for a -4? Salah to KDB. Almiron or Kulusevski? Kulusevski for a -4 hit, Rami. Haaland or KDB? I'd go for Haaland. Emerson or Creswell? I would go for Emerson this week. He's just cheaper as well, easier to bench, but Sufar's my favourite West Ham defender actually right now. After thinking a little bit more, it might be worth a -4 to bring in Perisic for you. I voted no though. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, look at that. 66% of you going for no. I can't lie, I'm a bit more tempted to take the -4 hit now, but that's something I'm going to mull over the next half an hour or so. Yeah, my plans, I've already made 2 free transfers, Mohamed. So I brought in De Bruyne and Pope for Salah and Sanchez. I might take a -4 hit for Perisic in. That's pretty much it. Maddison or Fornals this week? Which one to bench? Probably Fornals. I mean, it's really tough for me to say. I think their ceilings are quite low, but Maddison's such a good FPL option in general. De Bruyne chances to start? I don't know about the exact percentage, but I'd be fairly confident. You know, they've got the international break afterwards. Yeah, I think he's going to start. But there is the possibility of him being benched. Of course there is, but I think he starts. Would you bring Perisic in for James or Cancelo? Not for Cancelo. That makes no sense. Bring him in for James. And then, you know, if you're wildcarding next week, for example, or something, you can always bring him back in. But yeah, I think you're wildcarding this week anyway, aren't you? The -36 hit and all of that. Yeah, I'd rather keep Cancelo. Yeah, I don't know where that rumour came from. It died down in literally just a few seconds. Is Perisic going to start? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. My gut feeling is yes, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, let's wait and see, Leanne, about the top 4 picks. I mean, it could be in any order, but the thing that doesn't change is City champions, of course. He who dares wins. Yeah, that's a good point. Although people said that to me about the Hakimi thing, about bringing him on, on the Wednesday, and he ended up being benched, and he was on my bench, so that was good. But yeah, worth having Son, Kane, KDB, and Haaland this week, then take a -4 to remove the Spurs players next week. Normally I'd say yes, but I don't think Son starts personally. So yeah, that's the only one that I'd be unsure about. The rest looks good. How confident are we that Kulusevski starts? Like I said, around 70% confident. I think he starts. I'm more confident of him starting than Son. My captain, it's on screen. It's Haaland. Target, Botman, or share? Share. Kane or Tony long term? I would go for Tony personally because of the structure. AC Maximan starting? We don't know. We literally don't know. It's all down to a late fitness test. Bowen, Foden, Bailey, or KDB, Gordon, Bailey? I'd probably prefer the first trio, as much as I love KDB. Worth having Son, KDB? Yeah, I just answered your question, mate. Normally I'd say yes, but Son is not worth it. Bailey, Bowen, Isak, and Foden, or Kulusevski, Bailey, Mitrovic, and Bowen? I'd go for the second quartet. So the one with Mitrovic. Saint-Maximin or Almiron? Saint-Maximin, but I'm not sure if he starts. Fofana or Gay, or also Saka or Bowen? Long-term Bowen, and I would also rather have Gay, actually. Best midfielder for 7.9 million or below? I'm not sure what the context is. So, you know, long-term, for me, it would be Maddison and Zaha. Getting Dyer for James, fair enough. Let's wait and see how that goes. Better you wildcard next week or Gameweek 13? I'm not sure what your team situation is, but for most people, I think Gameweek 9 looks good. Captain Mitrovic, good or bad idea? Good idea, but there's so many good captaincy options that, you know, it's not the easiest decision. ¿Qué piensas de Tony Capitán? En contra de Arsenal no creo que vale la pena, porque Arsenal tiene una buena defensa y a pesar de que yo pienso que Tony va a hacer un gol, no creo que va a meter 2 o 3 goles. Vamos a ver si pasa, pero tenés Isaac, Haaland, De Bruyne, Harry Kane. Hay muchos que pueden hacer más goles que Tony en esta semana. Best midfielder for 6.3 million and below. Really, you're just looking at Odegaard. I mean, there's not that much. Bailey, Andreas, that's really it. Hey Dylan, should I take a -4 hit for Mitrovic, or is there a better mid option for 9.5? I'd rather go and take the -4 for Mitrovic, but do not get rid of Jesus from -4. Honestly, do not do that. Bench Neto, Nico, or Saliba? I'd actually rather bench Neto from those lot. You know, Wolves have scored 3 goals all season. City are one of the best defenses in the league, if not the best. To be fair, on the counter-attack, Neto could cause problems, but yeah, I'd probably bench him. Should I go for Bailey or get in Zaha? I would rather have Zaha long-term, but yeah, Bailey's fine for this week. Long-term, Zaha's my preference. They're different price points, of course. So now Richarlison is predicted to start. Should I keep him? Yeah, I keep him and then wildcard in 9. Exactly, yeah. I already have 3 City players. Who's the best option to replace Salah? I mean, when we're looking long-term, it'd be Sterling, arguably. But that's the thing. I mean, you're kind of... I'd go for Kulusevski for this week. I'm not sure what your team situation is, Jason. If you have the one... But yeah, look, he's not the same anymore, it looks like, and Leicester are just absolute travesty, but I think he will. Is Mitrovic really that much better option than Isaac? I mean, Isak is... If you look at his kind of goal returns, you know, he scored 6 La Liga goals last season and 4 the year before that. Mitrovic has, what, 49 goals in his last 49 league games? I think there's levels to it. I think Mitrovic is a better goal scorer and he'll get more FPL points, so I think there is a difference, yeah. Salah, Diaz, walkout for De Bruyne, Trippier and Bailey. Looks great to me. I would do it, mate. Thoughts on Pope, Trippier and Share on a wild card? I mean, if you're looking long-term, it is a bad idea, but for this week, it looks good, and it just depends if you have the cover, because you don't want to be tripling up on Newcastle defence every single week. A double-up is fine. A triple-up is excessive, but if you really back them for a clean sheet here, and maybe I think it's, I don't know which game week exactly when they play Everton, then fair enough, and you can always rotate in the other weeks. I think Mitrovic is close to essential. I wouldn't say it's absolutely essential because you have Isak, you've got Jesus, and you've also got Tony on top of the usual Kane and Haaland. So not absolutely essential, but he's one of the best options in the game for me. For 1 week, 7.9 million midfielder, Saka. Almiron or Gibbs White? Almiron. Does Emerson Royale start? I'm not sure. I mean, Paul O'Keefe predicts him to start, and also I think the predicted lineups from Emma as well. I'm not sure though. I mean, for me, logically, it doesn't make sense, but he has started so many games this season. I'm not sure. Kane or Haaland captain? I'd be tempted by Kane, like I said earlier. So I guess I'd go for him. It's really close. There's no right or wrong there. Go for whoever you think, whoever you have a gut feeling about. Who to bench between Maddison, Bailey, and Andreas? Probably Maddison. You know, as dumb as it sounds. Perisic, James and Gordon, or Emerson, Cucurella and Kulusevski. I'd go for the first trio, but Emerson, sorry, not Emerson, Gordon, I just don't like him as an FPL option. Yeah, I can understand that, but as a 1 week punt, I think Kulusevski is fine. Keep Bailey as a bench option for long term. Yeah, that's completely, that's nothing bad with that. Same with Andreas Pereira. They're the two best around their price and below. Should I take a -4 for Kyle Walker? Scraping a starting level with him, Nico, and Ward. Your Walker might not start this week, so if you're getting rid of him for a defender like Cher or Diaz or whatever, then fair enough. But otherwise, I wouldn't get Walker in. Anderson, Kyle Walker, Peters, and Zaha, full 11, or Emerson, Williams, and Bowen. Wait, full 11? Oh, so you have a full 11 and that would be your bench, I'm guessing, Marco. If that's the case, then yeah, that would be my preference. But Kyle Walker-Peters, I just don't like him. If you had to pick one defender to bring in as a 1 week punt, except from Perisic, Cancelo, Trippier, I'd probably look at Diaz or Fabian Schär. Would you consider captaining Mitrovic? No, I don't think so. I mean, he's really good, but I don't think I'd captain him. Drop Martinelli? This week, no. Who would you bench out, Andreas, Nico Williams, or Henry? Like I said, Stephanie, I'd bench Henry. 1 week punt, KDB or Foden? Once again, I'd go for KDB. Haaland or Kane? I'd go for Kane captain potentially. It's completely up to you. Thoughts on Bernardo Silva? I just don't like him long term as an FPL option, to be honest. Andreas or Maddison starting? I'd probably go for Andreas. De Bruyne, yeah, some of these questions have been repeated already, so I'm not going to go through them. Start Saliba or Nico? I'd go for Saliba. Start one, Maddison or Williams. I would probably go for Maddison, actually, funnily enough. Start Andreas or Emerson. I'd go for Andreas. Captain Kane or Haaland, yeah, same thing. Which Spurs midfielder would you select? Kulusevski. Jesus or Kane? I would go for Kane. Sell Walker for who? Trippier, Cancelo, and then if you've already got them, which most people do, that's fair enough, then I would look at Diaz or Fabian Schär. For just this game week, Kane and Bowen or KDB and Isak Mitrovic. KDB and Mitrovic all day long. Drop Martinelli on a wild card. Nothing wrong with it, to be fair. It's just, who are you going to get in his place? That's the thing. I would still have him on a wild card personally, but I don't blame you for not having him. Also on the team after 2 transfers. Looks really good, to be fair. You've got a full 11 out. Reed is the only one that you look at and think he's a bit, bit garbage, you could say. But the rest is completely fine, mate. So, looks really good. -4 points. No, I wouldn't do Jesus to Kane from -4, personally. Unless you're going to captain Kane and you really think he's going to go big, fair enough. But for me, personally, no. Best defender for no more than 4.7 million. I would probably say Schär. I think he's 4.7. If he isn't, then I will give you someone else. But yeah, he's 4.7. I'll go for Fabian Schär. There you go. Simple as that. All right, so very interesting. I think most of you have gone for no in terms of getting Perisic in for a -4 hit, which is quite interesting. Best defenders on the 4.6 million. Need them for this game weekend, blank game week 12. I'd say Soufal. The thing is, he does play Liverpool in game week 12, so in that case, Patterson or Williams could do the job. It's tough because most of these options, like Fofana, he also blanks this week, so there's no easy answer. I'd probably go for one of Nico or Patterson. Play Pope or Lloris? I'd play Pope. Is having Bowen, Zaha, Maddison too risky? Not really. I don't think so. As long as you have a premium midfielder, then there's no issues whatsoever. But I'm guessing you don't. Bailey or Andreas on a wild card? Andreas, but they're both fine. Saka or Kulusevski? I'd rather have Kulusevski this week. Long-term Saka. Got Gordon and Bailey. Andreas, Gordon fine or change to anyone? I mean, look, if you have him, fair enough, keep him. But in the long term, I would rather downgrade him. Obviously, you've already got Bailey and Andreas, fair enough. Then I would actually upgrade him. Martinelli, your Zahas, Maddisons, all these options you have. What do you think of having Trippier as a vice-captain? Not a bad choice, to be fair. He's probably one of the best defenders to captain this week, but I wouldn't do it. On a wildcard, need a 4.4 million defender. Gay or Soufal or Emerson? I'd probably go for Soufal, actually. But Gay looks pretty decent. I'd actually just rather have Anderson for 4.5. Salah to Bowen and Archer to Mitrovic, Tony, -4. Yep, I'd do it. Yep, that looks completely fine to me. Long term, I do prefer Maddison over Bowen, though. No chance for a -4. Yeah, that's the thing that puts me off. If it was for free, I'd do it. There's nothing to lose. I would gain a point, if anything. But, for a -4, it's tricky. Yeah, 1 second. I'm just going to deal with spammers. There's some questions that have been repeated. Thoughts about Isak? I'm using my wildcard. I mean, he's good for this week. Long term, I'd be concerned, especially with Wilson coming back. Leno goalkeeper, not for me. I don't trust Fulham defensively. Thoughts on Trippier and Share? I think a double up in Newcastle defense is fine. A triple up is good for this week, but long term, I wouldn't recommend it. Trippier is my preference. Is Foden a good pick? He's decent, but I think there are better options like Maddison, Zaha, etc. Andreas or Maddison starting? Like I said earlier, I'd go for Andreas. It's up to you. Best midfielder under around 6 to 6.5 million. Martinelli. Bowen or Kulusevski on a wild card? Bowen. If you're looking long term, it has to be Bowen. How many saves will Jose Sarr make? That's a good question. I think 5. Patterson or Emerson, West Ham? Patterson. I mean, it's really close. I mean, I think earlier I said Emerson, but I'd rather have Sufal. You know, looking at it now, even in my wildcard team that I showed you, I think I'd rather go for Patterson out of those two. Is Mitrovic worth a -4? Yes, but it depends what you're doing. If you're getting rid of Jesus or something like that, no, don't do it. Zaha fixtures look really good. Yes, they do. And even without the fixtures, I mean, he's just a great option in general. Should I keep Sanchez? My second keeper is Gazaniga. And if I want to change him, I've got to take a hit. I'd do Sanchez to Pope, and that's it, to be fair. Mohamed. Son or KDB? I'd go for KDB, mate. Are you doing Perry? Right now, no. But look, I can't lie. You know, I sometimes make late transfers, and it's just like a eureka moment. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. So I might still do it, but right now, no. I don't have a premium midfielder. I spread the funds for Zaha, Bowen, and Maddison. Fair enough. That's not too bad, to be fair. It's a good midfield. Also, on this team off the free transfers made this week. Looks really good. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Paqueta, Lyle, but the rest looks very solid. Yeah, it's just Paqueta I'm a bit unsure about, and Patterson for this week, but you've got a full 11. That's what matters. Mitrovic or Tony? Mitrovic. Thank you, Woz. I appreciate it. Fofana or Williams? Fofana, but the thing is, you know, if you already got James, you know, I'm not a big fan of double Chelsea defense, but the fixtures are there. Thank you, New York Scowl, I think it is, or NYY. Should I wildcard if I need to take a -8 to complete 11? You don't need a complete 11, though. That's the way I see it. You know, 9 or 10 is fine for a -4 or for free. So it's not too bad. Is Saliba a good choice? He's a decent choice, but he's got awful fixtures. I don't actually back Arsenal to keep a clean sheet this week, so I think there are better options, as simple as that. Kane plus Bowen or Isak and Kevin De Bruyne? Good question. Probably Kane and Bowen, actually. Only have 4 players playing this week. Definitely wildcard. I wouldn't free hit, but I'd wildcard if you can. Martinez goalkeeper will be starting. Yeah, it looks like it, but I don't trust Villa at all. Bailey's the only one I like because he's 4.7 million and he's a decent player. So you think he's consistent and won't be trolling this season? Yeah, I'm not even sure what that's in reference to. That was probably earlier. Start Emerson, West Ham, or Nico Williams. I'd probably go for Emerson this week. Best mid-price defender? Trippier, for sure. Yeah, we're very close to the deadline. 13 minutes now. After Wilson came in, do you think Isak and Wilson will play together? Really good question. I mean, this is the thing. We just don't know yet. We haven't seen it. I think there could be games where they play a front two, but for example, when they play a big team or, you know, maybe a tougher game away from home, I don't see both of them playing in the same team, but obviously, let's wait and see. Got Cancelo and Trippier, need a third defender from -4. I'm in the same boat. I'd say Perisic or Diaz, but I don't know what your situation is. Thoughts on Maddison? Really good long-term option. Don't like him that much for this week. Would you take a hit to get Sanchez out for Pope to avoid starting Ward? I would probably, yeah, Simon. Trippier, KDB, Kulusevski, and Isak in for -8, or should I only get 3 of them and swap Ward, Sanchez for Pope? I'd only do a -4 deal, basically, yeah, if you can. Can I buy Fabianski next week? You can, but I don't really see the need. He's a good penalty stopper. He's decent for saves and bonus points sometimes, but I'd rather go for Sufal or Emerson. What do you think about Chilwell? Too much money. I don't think he's going to start most games, so no. Paqueta and Pope or Martinelli and Sanchez? Martinelli and Sanchez long term, but remember, Sanchez blanks this week. Sell Trent, Salah, and Zaha to get in Trippier, Andres, and De Bruyne for -4. Yep, I'd do that. Dan Kidd, yep. Yeah, Zaha, yeah. That's fair enough, Wei-Seng. Well, he has been consistent. He scored the most goals of any player other than Son and Kane this year. So he has been consistent. Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. Do you think Arsenal win Europa League? honest answer is no, because Arsenal have a poor record in Europe, and I think they'll go far, but some good team from the Champions League will drop down and probably win it. If not, you know, maybe even Man United. I don't know. But in terms of winning Europa League, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Thoughts on Tsimikas on a wildcard draft? No. Robertson will be back from injury very soon. I wouldn't do that. And you might want triple Liverpool at some point, you know, around Game Week 12 onwards. Thank you, Blood Type Arsenal. Thank you very much. Alvarez instead of Kane? No chance. No. Thoughts on this wild card? Leno, Trippier, Williams, Cancelo, Andreas, Maddison, Martinelli. It's a really good team, Mohamed. Once again, though, as I've said before, I don't like Leno as an option. I don't think Fulham are good defensively. I would rather go for the likes of, obviously, Pope is the kind of standout, but you've also got Henderson potentially. But really, I would say Pope. I'd go for Pope and that's it. The rest of your team looks great, and I wouldn't really change much, if anything. Ederson, Cancelo, Trippier, Saliba, Archer, Ward-Prowse, Martinelli, Andreas, Haaland, Kane, Jesus. Looking okay before the wildcard. Exactly. That's the main thing. I'm not sure if Archer gets minutes, but the rest looks great, to be fair. Salah to Bowen and Archer to Mitrovic for a -4, or Salah to KDB with 9 players playing with no hit, which looks good. I would go for the -4 option, Sagar. Yeah, Mitrovic is really good, so I think it's worth it. Risk Kulusevski for a -4 or swap goalkeeper to Pope? I'd swap goalkeeper to Pope. Trussell to Gordon to bench Williams. No. Once again, I'm not a big fan of Gordon, especially this week against West Ham. It's up to you. You know, if you're really insistent on Gordon, go for it. You know, don't let me stop you, but I just don't see it. Best 7 million midfielder. I mean, it's just Martinelli, Barnes, you know, Odegaard, these sorts of options. That's just my opinion on it. Then you've obviously got the typical Bailey and Andreas and the cheaper prices. Should I start Bailey or Andreas? I'd go for Bailey. Thank you, Roy. I appreciate it. And yeah, we're trying to get to 15,000. We've made some progress today. I think we've got around 100 subscribers, so thank you very much to everyone. But yeah, let's keep on pushing. I think we're now just under 400 away from 15,000. So yeah, if you haven't already, you know what to do. And we've hit over 200 likes, so thank you to everyone who supported the stream. All right, let's see what else we have. Trippier for a -4, yes. You see Arsenal winning something this year? It's a possibility, mainly the FA Cup or Europa, but you know, the main target is getting into the Champions League, I think, and being competitive. You know, it's a rebuild job, so I don't think as much as Arsenal always need to be aiming for trophies, and you know they will be competing, I think, for 1 or 2 of them. There's no guarantee. Haaland, Kane, and 4.5, or Haaland, Tony, Mitrovic. Haaland, Tony, Mitrovic for sure, Lyle. Would you wildcard or take a -8 to get 11 starters? I would just wildcard. And look, you don't need to get 11 starters. Thoughts on Soufal will go for another 4.4. I mean, there's Fofana, but obviously doesn't play this week. I would probably go for Soufal. Start 1 from Maddison, Nico Williams, or Andreas. Andreas. Emerson, Perisic, or Dyer instead of James for a -4. Perisic, but it's really risky, Mohamed, and you know he could be benched. That's the thing. And look, to be honest, I can't lie. I'm very, very close. I know the poll says 65% no, but I am actually considering doing a late move to Perisic now. Thank you, Eliza. Thank you very much. I'm a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, but I don't have any of our players in my team. I mean, that's fair enough. I've also done that with Arsenal when they were absolutely awful in the last few years. I mean, I can understand that. But to be fair, Wolves are decent defensively. I think when the fixtures turn, you know, the likes of Collins, you know, Kilman, you know, all these options are pretty decent. And Jose Sarr in goal. Your favourite football player? Probably Messi. You know, it's kind of a boring answer, but it's probably Messi. Start Maddison or Nico Williams? Maddison. Mings or Tarkowski? I would go for Tarkowski, actually, but very, very mixed on that one. Who to replace Shea with long term? Probably Fofana or Soufal. My dilemma of full starting 11 without Mitrovic or just 10 starters with Mitrovic. I mean, I don't know what the context is because I don't know what the 11th starter would be, and you know, I would probably guess, I hazard a guess that 10 with Mitrovic looks better, but I don't know the situation. No, he's not starting for sure, but there is a chance that he does. I support Arsenal, Scal. I support Arsenal. Tottenham defender or Arsenal? Tottenham, I'd say. Yeah, Arsenal face the likes of Spurs, Liverpool. They have the blank in 12, so I'd go for the Spurs defender, and I'd go for Perisic if you can. Would you sell Salah for De Bruyne? Yes, I would. I would, even for a -4. Jesus to Tony or Isaac. I would just keep Jesus, Emmanuel. But if you had to do it for this week, I would go for Isak. Yeah, that's a good point where he's saying Haaland might not start this week, but I think he will. It's a tough game. They've got the international break afterwards. Maddison or Andreas to play, I'd go for Andreas, but it's up to you. Adel and I should bench 2 of Bailey, Andreas, Nico, Gordon. I would bench Gordon and Nico Williams. Is Paqueta starting? Yes, I believe so. Best 8 million midfielder. For this week, Kulusevski or Saka. Long term, it will be Zaha and Maddison. Wildcard, Odegaard or Martinelli? Martinelli. Thank you, Jay. I have enough players to start without Perisic if he got benched. The only thing scaring me is Potter dropping him in 89 minutes. I'm guessing you mean Conte, but yeah, it is a chance, kind of a difficult one with Perisic, but if he starts, I think he gets 60, 70 minutes and he can do damage in that time, or at least bang the clean sheet early. I'm betting on Perisic to start. Yeah, I mean, I think so too, but I'm really conflicted on it. Thank you, Arsene. Paqueta plays up front. Is that not a good option? I'm not necessarily sure he plays up front. And once again, I'd rather go for Bowen. Paqueta hasn't got any attacking returns so far. I'm not sure about the Conference League. I know they won 3-2, but yeah, I'm not too keen on Paqueta just yet. I want to see more from him first. Only 4.5 million left on the keeper. Who's the best pick if not Leno? I mean, yeah. I mean, you don't have much. Sanchez is 4.6, Henderson as well. So Leno might be the best one. But honestly, I'd rather spend extra if you can. What do you think about Kane, Mitrovic, Haaland, Pereira, KDB, Martinelli, Saka, Cancelo, Trippier, Emerson, and Pope? Looks good for this week, mate. Honestly, I think that looks really good. There's not much that I would kind of be worried about. No, that looks good. For this week, spectacular. Bailey starts and Coutinho, yeah. Thank you, Rock and Roll, for the shout-out. Thank you, and I agree, Ayub. I think Bailey starts as well, based on what we saw from Sam Martin. If you're looking for a moderator, I think I'm the man. Yeah, maybe. I'll have a look as well. I sometimes add mods after. We do have a lot already, and I appreciate everyone who, has asked to be one, and also those that have been helping me moderate the chat. Went for Kulusevski from week punt instead of Son. Yeah, I would have done the exact same thing, Bridgerton, honestly. Leicester have 2 centre-backs now, so indeed he can play CDM. Hopefully that can make some difference. Yeah, I mean, even if I bring in Perisic now in the last few minutes, I hope Leicester do the job, and yeah, so I do agree with you, but let's wait and see. Pick 2 of these on a wildcard: Bowen, Foden, Kulusevski, Saka. On a wildcard, it would be Bowen and Saka, I think. It's really close, though. What's your prediction on the games this week and score? I'll probably say it after the deadline, so remind me about that, Rock and Roll, and I'll do it. I could go through them quickly, but it's just I want to answer these last few questions and also potentially make a late transfer now. Start Nico Williams or Perisic? I go for Perisic. Yep, 5 minutes left. We're now free, obviously. KDB and Isak, Tony or Kane, an 8 million midfielder. I would rather go for KDB and Tony. Best 8 million midfielder except for Bowen. Maddison long term. Is it better to substitute Patterson for Perisic? I would start Perisic, of course. Tony or Jesus? Long term Tony. Bench 1, Perisic, Saliba, Bailey, Martinelli, Andreas. I would look to bench Saliba from those. No, time is not up yet. We've got 3 minutes left. Foden, Kulusevski, Diaz, Paqueta, or Zaha, Foden, Diaz, Bernardo. I prefer the second quartet, so Zaha, Foden, Diaz, and Bernardo. Paqueta or Buendia? I prefer Paqueta. Almiron 1 week punt. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I do prefer Bailey and Andreas. Play Ward or Raya? I play Raya. Is Bernardo worth a punt? Yes, he is, to be fair. I think he is, but I'd rather punt on double City defence. I can't lie. I think I'm going to make a late change and get Perisic in for Mr. Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm going to take the risk. I know it's, it might pay off. It might not, but it is what it is. I'd go for Perisic here. Start 2 of Andreas, Patterson, and Trippier. I would go for Andreas and Trippier. That shouldn't be a debate, I think. How do you know the exact time well enough to move so late? I'd be freaking. To be honest, it's just like a late kind of idea. Just I'm a bit more confident now, although not fully, about Perisic starting. So that's why. It's nothing major. Most of the kind of prediction sites and stuff and Spurs fans think he will start. There's an international break. So, yeah. I think I'm going to go for Perisic. Honestly, I'm going to go for it. Then we've literally got 1 minute left. So let's go. Fantastic. Bye-bye, Alexander-Arnold. I can always bring you back anyway. I've done it. There you go. So let me just bring him on for Reece James. And it's just literally a late eureka moment. Like I said, throughout the whole stream, there was the possibility, a bit more confident now with all the predicted lineups. But obviously, you know, if you, for example, do something similar to me, do not, you know, shout abuse at these people who make predictions. You know, they're just giving their opinions. They tend to give really good predictions. They're not always going to get it right. So I'm not going to be cussing Paul O'Keefe and all those. Thank you, Amir. Thank you. Let's wait and see if it's a W. It could be an L, but honestly, you know, the way I see it, Perisic get points and, you know, I benefit from it. That's nice. If not, I jinx Spurs. It's a win-win for me. You know, that's the way I see it. Got Perisic. I've got a feeling he's going to start and get a goal or assist. Yeah, I think it's worth the risk. If it was for free, I wouldn't have hesitated. It would have been done from the beginning of the stream. But yeah, it could backfire. Let's wait and see. Haaland or Kane captain? I would have gone for Kane, but it's really close between the two. Thank you, Amir. Foden and Nico or Perisic or Martinelli? Perisic or Martinelli for sure. Time is up. That is the deadline. Thank you to everyone who stood by throughout the whole stream. Good luck to you as well, Rock and Roll. And we'll go for the predictions now, actually. We are locked in. I did Luis Diaz to Kulusevski. I think that's a great one. We punt. I would have done something similar in your situation. Good luck to you as well, Kobe and Sudindra. Good luck, Mohammed and Liron. So some predictions that I made. I actually made some the other day with some friends of mine. I know, my friends. That's a bit weird. Yeah, these are the games. So I said Aston Villa 2, Southampton 2. I have a bold prediction. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a 2-1 Villa, 2-1 Southampton. But I went for 2-2. I went for a 3-1 Fulham win against Forest. 2-0 Man City win against Wolves. 2-0 Newcastle win against Bournemouth. Spurs 3, Leicester 1. Brentford 1, Arsenal 2. Everton 1, West Ham 1. But it could easily be, you know, a 0-0 draw or something like that. Whatever. And that's it, I think. Yeah, that's it for all of the games. So those are my predictions. Let's see, do I have them on screen? Wait, is there not any other games? Am I missing something? I think I covered everything. Where are you? Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, I think those are the games. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, those are the games. Good, locked in, Kane captain. Good luck to you. I hope Kane does really poorly, but obviously I hope you do really well in terms of your FPL team. Good luck, Sabil. Good luck for the game week, Dylan. Thank you for the advice. Thank you, Mickey, as always. One with Bowen and Williams over Paqueta and Perisic. Just think long-term Perisic will be rested sometimes. Yeah, that is fair enough. He has started a lot of games recently, but there's always a risk. Good luck, Lager. Would you have gone for Isak or Kulusevski for this week? Probably Kulusevski, actually. Good luck, all. Thanks a lot, Dylan. Thank you, Marco. Thank you very much. Went for Vice on Trippier last minute. Hopefully it pays off for you, and honestly, you probably don't need it anyway, but let's wait and see. I predicted a goal for Leicester. Yeah, same here. It's just I think Perisic can, if he starts, he'll get an attack and return. But Isak over Kulusevski, yeah. I mean, it's close, isn't it, between those two, but Kulusevski looks really good this week. 3 blanks, Dylan, says Marco. Yeah, no, exactly. It's just, it felt too short. Even with 7, I thought I only said 5 or 6. I was aware of that. Prediction on how many Haaland is going to score? I think he definitely gets 1 attack and return. Possibly 2. So my prediction is 2 goals, but I mean, Wolves are a tough, you know, cookie, to be fair. Either way, it's just with Haaland, you know, more likely than not he's going to return, so it's kind of a safety captain. I done 8.8 million in the bank. For what position? Midfield? If so, long-term Maddison and Zaha is my preference. I captained Saka by mistake. Might be a blessing in disguise, but normally I wouldn't recommend captaining Arsenal players. Yeah, you probably will, Ayo, but Leicester are awful. Yeah, the mods have helped a lot because sometimes we do get spammers. Sometimes even like these random websites, I don't even want to say their name. They'll probably come up out, you know, after the end of the stream. Seems weird with only 7 games. It does. Yeah, it's just I literally read it in like 5 seconds. That's why it kind of caught me off guard. Good luck, was. I captained Trippier. Thoughts? I mean, it's really bold, but I hope it pays off for you, mate. Honestly, you know, I'm always kind of preferring the midfielders and attackers, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, mate, what are we thinking of this free hit team? Pope, Cancelo, Perisic, Trippier, Martinelli, Kulusevski, Saka, Bernardo. I honestly went for something identical. I think the only changes on my free hit team were Isak in for Jesus. Mitrovic. And I also went for, instead of Bernardo, I think I went for someone else. But, yeah, that looks like a really good team, honestly. And even Bernardo could do a very good job for you, mate. That's a great free hit team for this week.
Watch Perisic score a goal and 15-pointer. Nah, if he does that, then I'd be quite lucky. I got him in for UCL Fantasy late on, and Son as well. That backfired, but honestly, I don't mind if they're jinxed and they get 1 or 2 points. Honestly, thank you, Rock and Roll. Enjoy the break as well. There might be a reaction stream tomorrow because I could be out on Sunday. Obviously, I'm not sure if I will be able to stream for the usual 2 or 3 hours tomorrow. As you can see, my voice was already kind of gone today after an hour. But yeah, hopefully it's all fine for tomorrow, and then we'll do a reaction stream. And then there'll be maybe a best wildcard team video in the next few days, an early one for Game Week 9. And then there's going to be some kind of UCL Fantasy and FPL content sprinkled in between the next 2 weeks. So there's plenty of stuff heading your way. Need another Arsenal win in my life? Well, you'll get it. But Arteta won Manager of the Month. You know about the Manager of the Month award, the curse. Oh, God. Don't be like that, Dylan. Captain Kane. Yeah, I know. It's just, come on. For me, football and club over FPL. I can't, I can never cheer on a rival. Even if Kane scores a hat-trick to make me win FPL, which won't happen, but let's say that happened. I would still be fuming. And I'm being serious, by the way. After the midweek swapping Salah for Diaz, I need to go in my favour. Good luck to you as well, Leanne, and I wish you all the best as well. I wanted to captain Target. I mean, captaining Target seems a bit... Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about that. I mean, Trippier I have a bit more confidence in, but Target's also a bit of a yellow card magnet from his time at Aston Villa. The Silver Masterclass. Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. It does even start the game. We need UCL Fantasy. Yes, there will be UCL Fantasy content, but we've got like 2 weeks. There's no point, rushing content, getting out as soon as possible when, a lot of information will come in and things can change. I'm hitting the wildcard button. Yeah, same here. I probably will as well, Sing. And there could be a video fairly soon. Cursing coming, the inevitable, isn't it? Yeah, unfortunately. But Arsenal have the quality to win. Let's just wait and see. Partey should be back as well, which is a big boost. Welcome back, Raf. I got Son and Martinelli and I captain Son. The thing is, Son might not even start this week. I don't want to burst your bubble, but if there's ever a chance or a time that Son is benched, it could be this one. But let's wait and see. Totally agree. Club of FPL. Come on, you Gunners. Yeah, I mean, I just can't bring myself. I think I remember Son. He scored a hat-trick last season against Aston Villa, I think it was. Something like that, or I can't remember. Around the game week 30 period, when it was absolutely insane. And I was fuming, I can't lie. I'm not sure if I'm going to wait for the lineups because, like I said, I want to save my voice for tomorrow, potentially for another reaction stream and other videos. I would love to, but yeah. Thoughts on Argentine Romero? I mean, I think he made a mistake, personally. I mean, you might call me biased or whatever, going to Spurs. I think he could have waited, gone to Barcelona or something like that. He was progressing a lot at Atalanta. I think his progress has been halted a little bit at Spurs. He's very aggressive. Obviously, he's got pace. He's a good reader of the game, and he's a great tackler. But, yeah, Romero, obviously, he's one of the best young centre-backs in the world, but I think he should move, personally. If you still activate wildcard before deadline, it's all okay. Cancels out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about that. I have to double check that. Game week 8, Sarr, Trippier, Tete, Cancelo, Odegaard, Saka, De Bruyne, Gibbs, White, Kane, and Boomer, Bernardo. I mean, there's a few, picks I'm a bit unsure about, like Gibbs, White, and Boomer, but the rest looks pretty good. If I had 2 free transfers for my wildcard, do I keep them after the wildcard? No. You only get 1 transfer after the wildcard. The same goes for the free hit. Saw some conflicting reports on Sinchenko. Ukraine since injured. Yeah, Arteta was deliberately vague. Yeah, I think Tierney starts as well. I don't think they're rushing back in. I agree. Raya, Cancelo, Saliba, Martinelli, KDB, Andreas. Took the -4 for Gordon for a 1-week punt. Good luck to you as well, Sadindra. That's the good thing to do. Back your gut. I mean, I was kind of completely against Gordon, but it's good that you made your own decisions. It's good. I made 3 transfers. So before the stream even started, I brought in De Bruyne and Pope in for Sanchez and Salah before the price rises and all of that. And then in the last minute, I think it was, I got in Perisic in for Trent Alexander-Arnold for a -4 hit. Yeah, exactly. Arsenal players just... Whoever joins Arsenal gets injured, to be fair. I almost panicked, was out for my bro's birthday, tried to make transfers before deadline, and I forgot to confirm wildcard when confirming changes. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you forget, and these kind of random deadlines. We've got 2 8 PM games. How often does that happen? So I understand that. Was it right not to wildcard this week or for a -4 with 1 blank? Honestly, I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong. You know, let's wait and see how it pans out. I think it's a low-scoring week anyway, and I don't like many of the defender options this week. Basically, these three that I have are my favourites, and that's if Perisic starts. So hopefully it turns out right for you. But honestly, I think whether you wildcarded this week or next week doesn't make too much of a difference, but I'd rather have more information during the international break, and that's my preference ultimately. I did Perisic, De Bruyne, Isak for Trent, Salah, Archer for -4. Kept wildcard. Fair enough. Yeah, that looks good. That looks, and you could wildcard next week, for example, or Game Week 12. You've got a bit more flexibility, you could say. Yeah, it'll be nice to catch all the price rises and falls today. Yes, yes. That's what I'm going to be looking to do as well. I somehow managed to create a freemium of Haaland, KDB, and Kane for this week. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about it long term, but for this week, it looks really good. Yeah, I bought Perisic in last minute or so. I just had a gut feeling. I talked about this in the last 5 or 10 minutes, and I went for it. Hoping to get by this game week to attack till Game Week 12, exactly. And wildcard could be the option here in Game Week 9. Let's see how it turns out. Let's see how it turns out. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today. I very much appreciate all your support. And good luck for Game Week 8. Let's see how it turns out. Blank Game Week 8. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to subscribe. Check the links in the description for the Patreon and channel memberships. It's all there. And like I said, this week we made like 30 members or something. I don't know how much. It's absolutely crazy. I think we got 30 channel members and 10 patrons. So thank you very much for all the support. And we are making significant strides to get into 15,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for everything you have been doing. And I just wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 8. Enjoy the football as always. And I'll be talking to you very soon, hopefully for a reaction stream on the Saturday. But I'll let you know when it will happen. And there'll also be a best wildcard team video for Game Week 9. So I'll see you then. And don't forget the UCL fantasy content heading your way.